Chapter 1679. After setting up hundreds of seals and restrictions around the heart of the ocean, Feng Sangxiong and the other three took action. Feng Sangxiong faced Ling Wenxing, while Long Qing faced Xiaoyang. Feng Sangxiong and Long Qing both had the same idea. They both planned to deal with the relatively weaker Ling Wenxing and Xiaoyang first. Then the two of them would have showdown. Feng Sangxiong was ranked 11th on the Saint list, while Ling Wenxing was ranked 15th. Long Qing was ranked 1st on the Saint list, while Xiaoyang's ranking was relatively lower, only ranked 20th. However, the gap between the 11th and 20th experts on the Saint list was not like the gap between the 10th and 11th experts on the Saint list. The gap between the top 10 experts on the Saint list and the 11th to 20th experts on the Saint list was huge. Just like Yu Yangjia and Feng Sangxiong, Yu Yangjia could easily suppress the 11th Feng Sangxiong. However, Feng Sangxiong could not easily suppress the 12th and 20th experts on the Saint list, because although there was a gap between the 11th and 20th experts on the Saint list, the gap was not obvious. Otherwise, Feng Sangxiong would have suppressed Xiaoyang long ago. Rumble, the four of them fought in pairs. However, the strength of the four people was actually on par. It was difficult to determine the winner in a short time. In the beginning, the four of them still had a lot of reservations. However, as time passed, the battle between them became more and more intense. In fact, in the end, the two of them were truly enraged. Half a day later, the four people had already left Blue Billow Island and fought in the sky above Blue Billow Island. However, even so, the four people's divine senses still enveloped the entire Blue Billow Island. This made those who wanted to fish in troubled waters dispel the idea in their hearts and did not dare to approach Blue Billow Island. However, at this time, there was one person who was very happy. That person was naturally Morongyu. Mengqing, can you try to subdue this heart of the ocean? In the Hichu Luoshu, Murong, you called Yu Mengqing over, trying to let her subdue the heart of the ocean. Yu Mengqing tried, but soon shook her head. She couldn't subdue the heart of the ocean at all. She didn't even have any communication with the heart of the ocean. Since she couldn't communicate, she naturally couldn't subdue it. In fact, it wasn't so easy to subdue such a heavenly treasure. However, Murongyu only wanted Yu Mengqing to try. Even if Yu Mengqing could subdue the heart of the ocean, he would not let her merge with it. After all, it was not that easy to fuse with the heart of the ocean. It would take a very long time. Back then, the heart of the ice was heart of the ice snow ice heart. Of the heart of the ocean, of the heavens, of the heavenly, of the heart of the heavens. After all, the strength groups's was too strong. Was two of the heavens. Of course, outs you summoned out the of the divine. It was the size of it was the size was the size a painting of it did the of heart below. Bang! In the blink of an eye, Hichu Luoshu had already wrapped around the heart of the ocean. At the same time, a powerful suction force rushed out from the Hichu Luoshu and wrapped around the heart of the ocean. It was about to suck the heart of the ocean into the Hichu Luoshu. However, at this moment, Feng Sangxiong and the others who were fighting on Blue Billows Island had already reacted. In fact, they had already reacted the moment Hichu Luoshu appeared. Although they were fighting in the distance, they didn't give up on subduing the heart of the ocean. They all spread out their divine senses and began to try to subdue the heart of the ocean. The four of them were the same. However, they also knew that the heart of the ocean wasn't so easy to subdue. That was why they were fighting to completely seize the heart of the ocean. After all, even if they couldn't subdue the heart of the ocean, they still had their clansmen. It was possible for their clansmen to merge with the heart of the ocean. You're courting death. Feng Sangxiong and the others were stunned when they saw Hichu Luoshu, but they quickly reacted. Almost at the same time, the four of them roared. Their divine senses erupted and blasted directly at Hichu Luoshu. Hichu Luoshu had already enveloped the entire heart of the ocean. Besides, Murongyu didn't intend to give up the heart of the ocean to avoid the four's attack. Therefore, the four's divine senses blasted directly at Hichu Luoshu. Bang, 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 bang. A terrifying power erupted and blasted Hichu Luoshu into bursts of dazzling earthy yellow holy light. However, Hichu Luoshu was the most powerful treasure in the world. Although the attacks of Feng Sangxiong and the others were terrifying, they couldn't do anything to Hichu Luoshu at all. However, although Hichu Luoshu was fine, it didn't mean that its owner, Murong Yu, was fine. The terrifying overflow damage directly affected Murong Yu's body. These overflow damage couldn't be resisted at all, unless Murong Yu came into contact with Hichu Luoshu's recognition as its owner. Therefore, Murong Yu was directly met with a tragedy. His powerful mind was almost shattered at the first moment. Fortunately, Murong Yu's reaction speed was fast. He immediately channeled an enormous amount of soul power into his mind. At the same time, the life power with an even more terrifying recovery ability quickly enveloped his entire mind. The moment his mind was shattered, the power of life washed over it and quickly repaired it. At the same time, the soul power quickly repaired it. This prevented Murong Yu's mind from being shattered. On the contrary, Murong Yu's mind was completely repaired in just a few moments. It wasn't damaged at all, but even so, Murong Yu almost fainted from the pain. After all, this was equivalent to Murong Yu's mind being torn apart once. Soul Storm. After repairing his mind, Murong Yu roared and used the most powerful indiscriminate soul attack, directly strangling the divine senses left behind by Feng Sangxiong and the others. Puchi, the divine senses of Feng Sangxiong and the others weren't strong. Under Murong Yu's enormous soul attack, they were torn apart in an instant. And Murong Yu's soul attack didn't stop at all as it strangled towards Feng Sangxiong and the others who had already rushed over. At the same time, Murong Yu accelerated the collection of Ocean's heart. However, what made Murong Yu's balls ache was that Ocean's heart stood in place like an ancient sacred mountain, motionless. Damn you! Murong Yu couldn't help but curse in his heart. He almost couldn't help but want to punch the Ocean's heart. How terrifying was the strength of Feng Sangxiong and the others. Murong Yu couldn't even block one move from Xiaoyang, who was ranked the lowest among the four, let alone four people working together. Not to mention one move, he couldn't even block half a move. Murong Yu was already thinking that if he couldn't collect the Ocean's heart before Feng Sangxiong and the others arrived, he could only give up. Heavenly King Grand Sage Art. At the same time as the Soul Storm broke out, Murong Yu also began his mind attack. It was just that Feng Sangxiong and the others were too strong. Even if Murong Yu's soul had reached 6 stars, it couldn't hurt their souls at all. The four of them just threw out an ordinary punch and directly shattered Murong Yu's dual soul and mind attack. And their speed was getting faster and faster as they rushed towards Murong Yu. There was no way to stop them at all. Murong Yu frowned slightly, and his face was incomparably gloomy. Now his only way was to leave immediately. Otherwise, if he was one step slower, he wouldn't be able to leave even if he wanted to. However, seeing that the heart of the ocean was within his reach, he was unwilling to leave now. Activate the all-directional extermination array. Murong Yu only hesitated for less than 1/100th of a second before he decided. Rumble. The space in front of Murong Yu started to rapidly vibrate. Although there wasn't any loud sound, the space in front of Murong Yu started to vibrate. Although there wasn't a loud sound, in the ears of Feng Sangxiong and the others, it was as if they heard a loud noise like a stormy sea. Almost at the same time, Feng Sangxiong and the others only saw the scenery in front of them change, and then they found that they had entered a space full of white mist. Array? The four of them were not only powerful, but also extremely knowledgeable. They knew that they had been enveloped in an array at the first moment. Insignificant skill. Feng Sangxiong shouted coldly and threw out a punch. Although he didn't use all his strength in this punch, it also contained 50% of Feng Sangxiong's attack. How terrifying was 50% of the attack of a ruthless expert ranked 11th on the Saint list? Even if it was an expert ranked in the top 20 of the Saint list, he would probably be killed by Feng Sangxiong's punch. However, What shocked Feng Sanxiong was that although his punch had blown up the surrounding space, the endless mist also disappeared. However, it only lasted for a moment. Soon, the mist quickly spread over from afar and finally submerged the space around Feng Sanxiong. Not only Feng Sanxiong's side, but also Long Qing, Ling Wenxing, Xiao Xiao, and the others. For a moment, the four ruthless experts were stunned. What kind of array was this? It was actually so terrifying. They weren't the only ones. Even Murong Yu was stunned. They didn't expect that the power of this array, which was seized from the Phoenix clan and the Evil Demon clan, was so terrifying that it even trapped Feng Sanxiong and the others. This is 10-direction extermination array. At this moment, Feng Sanxiong's horrified scream suddenly came out from the array. This array was quite familiar. It was one of the top arrays owned by the Phoenix clan. But wasn't this array only owned by the Phoenix clan? How could it appear here? And even trapped him? Could it be that Feng Qianquan lost? Even the array was taken away by Murong Yu? Suddenly, this terrifying thought appeared in Feng Sanxiong's heart. At the same time, he also took a step forward and his figure began to shuttle through the array. In the next moment, he appeared outside the array. As the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan, he was naturally familiar with this array. This array couldn't trap him at all. However, when he saw Feng Sanxiong who rushed out of the array, Murong Yu was shocked. At this time, Feng Sanxiong also made a move. He stretched out his big hand and grabbed towards the heart of the ocean. A terrifying power erupted and instantly shrouded this space. It directly froze the space near the heart of the ocean. Chapter 1680. Seeing this, Murong Yu was taken aback. He had forgotten that this all-directional extermination array was the Phoenix clan's handiwork. Using the Phoenix clan's array to trap the Phoenix clan's ancestor? Wasn't this courting death? Change the array. After the shock, Murong Yu roared in his heart. At the same time, the Phoenix clan and Demon clan's saint-ranking experts in Hichu Luoshu changed the array. With a swoosh, the area near the ocean's heart was shrouded by the array's projection. Moreover, the array that had changed also temporarily blocked Feng Sanxiong's advance. At the same time, an incomparably terrifying power blasted down, carrying a terrifying aura that could destroy the heaven and earth, wanting to kill Feng Sanxiong. Moreover, the array's attack was concentrated on Feng Sanxiong. As for Long Qing and Xiao Yang, Murong Yu didn't attack because the three of them were still trapped in the array's projection and hadn't broken the array to leave for the time being. Only this Feng Sanxiong knew the way in and out of the array, so they could only use attacks to stop his advance. During this process, Murong Yu exhausted all his strength in an attempt to take the ocean's heart into Hichu Luoshu. However, what made him speechless was that the ocean's heart seemed to be fixed here by someone and didn't move at all. Bang! 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 Although Feng Sanxiong's strength was powerful, the array's attack was a combination of 20 saint-ranking experts. Moreover, after being strengthened by the array, these attacks already posed a threat to him. Therefore, his speed was slowed down. However, at this moment, Xiao Yang and the other two on the other side had already broken out of the array. Although the all-directional extermination array was powerful, it also had its limits. The strength of Long Qing, Ling Wenxing, and Xiao Yang was really too powerful. Especially after the three of them joined forces, the terrifying power shattered the array's projection. Swoosh! After breaking the array, Xiao Yang and the other two smashed through the void and rushed towards Murong Yu. During this process, they attacked Murong Yu while grabbing the ocean's heart. Boom! At the same time, Feng Sanxiong also avoided the attack of the array and reappeared on by Tao Island. A terrifying power erupted and instantly enveloped Murong Yu. Murong Yu's expression changed drastically. Even if he had a supreme weapon and the Hichu Luoshu, he would not be able to block the attacks of four vicious experts. They would be killed in an instant. Infinite banishment. Murong Yu roared in his heart and was about to banish himself. The power of banishment instantly enveloped Murong Yu in the ocean's heart. It even enveloped Feng Sangxiong, who had already rushed to Murong Yu's side. Swish! Under the shocked gazes of Long Qing and the others, Murong Yu, Ocean's Heart, and even Feng Sangxiong disappeared into thin air. After the two of them disappeared, the attacks of the three of them finally landed, although this space had been blasted into smithereens. But Murong Yu, Feng Sangxiong, and Ocean's Heart had already disappeared. The three of them were startled at first, then they became furious. Then an incomparably huge power dissipated from their bodies. With their bodies as the center, it quickly dissipated in all directions. Under the impact of the three's terrifying power, the surrounding space began to collapse and even be annihilated. And the Bai Tao island under their feet also suffered a calamity and began to be destroyed. However, there was still no trace of Murong Yu, Feng Sangxiong, and Ocean's Heart. Somewhere in the periphery of the ancient battlefield. Swish! A layer of ripples suddenly appeared in the void here without warning. Then, a burst of dazzling holy light flashed. With a bang, the void suddenly exploded. 3 rays of light immediately flew out from the void. Phew! When his feet touched the ground again, Murong Yu could not help but heave a sigh of relief. With the void frozen, Murong Yu could not even enter the Hichu Luo Shu. But fortunately, infinite banishment was more powerful. At the last moment, he was still banished to the ancient battlefield. Ocean's Heart. When he saw Ocean's Heart floating in the void in front of him, Murong Yu's face bloomed with a smile. When infinite banishment was used, Murong Yu also deliberately enveloped Ocean's Heart. Originally, he just wanted to give it a try. However, he did not expect that Ocean's Heart would actually be banished to the ancient battlefield. Feng Sangxiong. When he saw Ocean's Heart, Murong Yu wanted to reach out his hand to grab it. However, at this moment, a figure appeared in his line of sight. When he saw this person, Murong Yu was immediately stunned and could not help but exclaim, "Murong Yu!" After Murong Yu exclaimed, Feng Sangxiong's voice rang in Murong Yu's ears. Then, Murong Yu felt that he was grabbed by a big hand. In front of Feng Sangxiong, Murong Yu did not even have a chance to escape. Murong Yu, Ocean's Heart, is really easy to obtain. After grabbing Murong Yu, Feng Sangxiong also saw Ocean's Heart. A series of surprises finally made him burst into laughter. Murong Yu was quite depressed. He did not expect that he would also banish Feng Sangxiong to the ancient battlefield. Banishing them was one thing, but they had to be banished to the same place. Wasn't this too bitter? What made Murong Yu even more speechless was that if it was in normal times, he would not be able to banish Feng Sangxiong even if he wanted to. But now, he really wanted to cry, but had no tears. This time, I only wanted to fight for Ocean's Heart, but I got the celestial chaos. Haha, this is really a big surprise. Looking at Murong Yu in his hand, Feng Sangxiong burst into laughter. Although there was a chance to break through to the supreme realm by fusing with Ocean's Heart. But if he seized the celestial chaos, then he would become the chaos controller. This was an existence that even rulers could only look up to. You can kill me, but without me, you will absolutely not be able to leave here. After the initial panic, Murong Yu had already calmed down and said coldly. Feng Sangxiong's eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold, killing intent flashed across his brows. As long as you become the chaos controller, where can't you go in the world? Murong Yu was silent. If Feng Sangxiong really thought so, then he could not refute. This is the ancient battlefield, a space independent of the holy world. Without me, you will not be able to return to the holy world at all. Of course, if you become the chaos controller, you can go anywhere. But can you become the chaos controller? Murong Yu sneered, as if talking to himself, but also as if talking to Feng Sangxiong. Ancient battlefield? Hearing this, Feng Sangxiong was shocked. He had heard of this ancient battlefield, and he also knew that this ancient battlefield was extremely dangerous. Although it looked calm now, there were some extremely terrifying experts hidden in the depths of the ancient battlefield. As the old ancestor of the Phoenix clan and the 11th existence on the holy ranking, he knew more than Murong Yu. The ancient battlefield, Even Supremes were not willing to enter this place, because there were dangers that could threaten Supremes. How did you enter the ancient battlefield? Feng Sanqiong's face darkened, and he looked at Murong with murderous intent. Murong smiled and looked at Feng Sanqiong with disdain. Why should I tell you? Of course, you cannot believe that this is the ancient battlefield. You can also try to find the exit. You can also kill me, seize my body, and deprive me of my memories. Murong words were unbridled, as if he had nothing to fear. This was because he cultivated Phoenix's nirvana. Now that he was restrained by Feng Sanqiong, he couldn't escape at all. But if Feng Sanqiong killed him, although Murong would waste a life, he could take the opportunity to escape from Feng Sanqiong's evil claws. Just as Feng Sanqiong was about to speak, he snorted coldly and then took a step forward, his figure disappearing from the spot. Boom! Just as he disappeared from the spot, the void where he was originally was shattered. A terrifying pressure burst out, suppressing the surrounding space and causing it to shatter. Murong jumped in fright. When he looked over, he saw a black silhouette appear behind them. By the time Murong looked over, the black silhouette had already reached out with its large hand, grabbing at him from the air. Courting death. Feng Sanqiong shouted angrily and turned around abruptly, but he had already punched out. Boom! In a split second, the two people's attacks collided in midair. After the earth-shattering noise, that black shadow was directly sent flying. And Feng Sanqiong also didn't have a good time. He retreated for a few miles before stopping. However, he was only sent flying, nothing much. However, Murong who was caught in his hand, was miserable. The shockwaves from the battle between the two had almost shattered him to pieces. Swish! Before Murong could see clearly who made the move. That black shadow turned into a black streamer, smashed the void and grabbed at the heart of the ocean. Feng Sanqiong immediately shouted angrily and took a step forward. He also smashed the void and rushed towards the heart of the ocean. During this process, he condensed all his power on his right fist, then locked onto that black shadow and punched fiercely. Ga! That black shadow made a sharp but unpleasant sound and grabbed at Feng Sanqiong with a claw. Murong who was caught by Feng Sanqiong, was shocked. The strength of this black shadow should be about the same as Feng Sanqiong. How could he withstand the aftermath of the battle between the two of them? What's more, his strength was now sealed by Feng Sanqiong. Feng Sanqiong, quickly let me go. In a hurry, Murong couldn't help but shout. Feng Sanqiong was stunned. Then he obediently let go of Murong and directly threw him out. This made Murong surprised. When did Feng Sanqiong become so obedient? However, what made Murong miserable was that after Feng Sanqiong threw him out, that black shadow that rushed towards a void. That black shadow that was originally rushing towards Feng Sanqiong shifted continuously in the air. In the end, it actually avoided Feng Sanqiong and pounced towards Murong. Chapter 1681. Seeing that figure actually pouncing towards him, Murong was almost scared to death. This guy's strength was strong and was almost on par with Feng Sanqiong. Even if Murong was at his peak strength, he couldn't resist his attack, not to mention that his strength was sealed by Feng Sanqiong now. There was no way to escape. Feng Sanqiong, damn you! Murong panicked and couldn't help but curse at Feng Sanqiong. If it wasn't for Feng Sanqiong sealing his cultivation, how could he only wait for death? With Murong character, even if he knew that he wasn't the opponent's opponent, he would still fight to the death. He was definitely not a person who would sit and wait for death. But obviously, he could only wait for death now. Phoenix danced in the sky, seeing that the black shadow actually abandoned him and attacked Murong. Feng Sanqiong immediately reacted. He knew that he had been fooled. The opponent's target had always been Murong. The heart of the ocean was just a diversion. After reacting, Feng Sanqiong roared and immediately displayed the Phoenix clan's unique skill. Terrifying holy light burst out from Feng Sanqiong's body and soared into the sky. The void around Feng Sanqiong was quickly shattered under the impact of his power. At the same time, a phoenix about the size of a small mountain that emitted five-colored holy light also appeared in the void above his head. A vast, ancient, and incomparably powerful aura emanated from the five-colored phoenix and swept out in all directions. The terrifying pressure flooded the distance like a torrent, shattering the void and making the soul tremble. What a terrifying pressure! Murong-Yu felt that his body was about to shatter under the pressure of this five-colored phoenix. Moreover, this five-colored phoenix actually targeted the soul. It suppressed Murong-Yu's soul and made it tremble. Screech! Suddenly, this five-colored phoenix let out a long cry to the sky. Then, one of its claws suddenly stretched out and shattered hundreds of millions of space-time and disappeared into the endless void. When the sharp claws appeared again, it was already above the Black Shadow's head. Carrying a terrifying aura that could destroy the heavens and the earth, it ruthlessly smashed down on the black figure's head. At this time, the Black Shadow had already rushed in front of Murong-Yu. He stretched out his big hand and was about to grab Murong-Yu. But right at this moment, his heart was suddenly enveloped by an extremely strong aura of death. The Black Shadow was shocked. He knew that if he continued to grab Murong-Yu, Murong-Yu would not be able to escape and would be caught by him. However, his head and even his soul would definitely be crushed by this five-colored phoenix. Although the chaos celestial body was precious, his life was still the most precious. Therefore, the Black Shadow decisively gave up on Murong-Yu. He turned his claw into a fist and punched towards the sharp claws of the five-colored phoenix. Bang! After an earth-shattering boom, the sharp claws of the five-colored phoenix were shattered. The Black Shadow did not have it easy either. His fist was directly shattered, and his entire body was suppressed deep into the ground by the tremendous force. With a boom, the aftermath of a terrifying force directly bombarded Murong-Yu's body. Murong-Yu's clothes had been reduced to fine powder by the shockwave. At the same time, Murong-Yu's incomparably powerful body was also cracked open by the impact. Blood gushed out, and it was extremely terrifying. Murong-Yu let out a shrill scream. His entire body was blasted out and rushed into the distant void. "You two bastards. There will come a day when I'll personally kill you." Murong-Yu's heart was filled with rage as he roared. Although he appeared to be very angry, his heart was very calm. He had already begun to attack Feng Sanqiong's seal. Only by regaining his freedom could Murong-Yu escape, because without power, he couldn't even use the Hichu Luo Shu. Kill! Seeing Murong-Yu being blasted out, Feng Sanqiong's face turned cold. But in the end, he still suppressed the idea of capturing Murong-Yu. He controlled the five-colored phoenix to quickly suppress the Black Shadow. He was confident in his seal. He knew that Murong-Yu couldn't break his seal and couldn't escape. And if he wanted to seize Murong-Yu's body, he must kill the Black Shadow. Otherwise, the Black Shadow would compete with him for Murong-Yu. "You have successfully angered me, so you will die without a doubt." The Black Shadow smashed the ground with a punch and turned into a black light that soared into the sky. At the same time, his incomparably angry and incomparably unpleasant voice also spread far away. Rumble, the two ruthless experts immediately started fighting. Each of them couldn't wait to kill the other. Moreover, in the battle, they gradually distanced themselves from Murong-Yu with tacit understanding. They didn't want to destroy Murong-Yu's body. Then, what was the point of their battle? Their purpose was to get Murong-Yu's body. Fight! It's best to perish together. In the distance, Murong-Yu gritted his teeth as he watched the two ruthless experts fight, and he was constantly attacking the seal. However, what made him depressed was that Feng Sanqiong's strength was really too strong. The seal looked ordinary, but Murong-Yu couldn't shake it at all. Unable to break the seal, Murong-Yu didn't even have the ability to enter the Hichu Luo Shu. And once Feng Sanqiong and the Black Shadow decided the winner, Murong-Yu would definitely not be able to survive. Big bad guy, I didn't expect you to have such a day." Just when Murong-Yu was attacking the seal gloomily, a childish laughter suddenly sounded in his ears. At the same time, little Loli, who was carrying a giant axe, also appeared in Murong Yu's line of sight. Little Loli's strength was very strong, especially when she could enter and exit the Hichu Luoshu at will. This made Murong Yu unable to do anything to her. You could still laugh? Quickly bring me into the Hichu Luoshu. Murong Yu glared at little Loli and said speechlessly. However, little Loli rolled her eyes and said helplessly, I can only enter and exit the Hichu Luoshu alone. I can't bring someone with me. Murong Yu suddenly became silent. He was already speechless. Then do you have a way to break my seal? Murong Yu rolled his eyes and said. However, he regretted it as soon as he said it. Little Loli's strength wasn't as good as his. How could she break Feng Sanqiong's seal? Boom! Little Loli didn't have time to speak when an earth-shattering sound suddenly came from afar. Murong Yu and the little Loli jumped in fright and turned their heads to look. However, at this moment, a terrifying shockwave swept over. Aya! The little Loli let out a cry of surprise as she was sent flying by the shockwave of the attack. Even more, Murong Yu saw little Loli spit out a big mouthful of blood when she was sent flying. Little Loli was already like this, let alone Murong Yu, whose strength was completely sealed. The terrifying force directly acted on Murong Yu's body. Suddenly, his powerful body collapsed at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, this force penetrated into Murong Yu's body and tore through his meridians. Murong Yu's eyes turned black, and he almost couldn't help but faint. However, Murong Yu gritted his teeth and held on. At the same time, he guided the force that rushed into his body to attack the seal set by Feng Sanqiong. Just at this moment, two screams came from afar. Murong Yu, who was gritting his teeth and holding on, glanced over from the corner of his eyes. Two figures flew out from the impact of the collision. However, one figure quickly stood on the spot, while the other continued to fly backward. Seeing this, Murong Yu was shocked, because the person who stood on the spot was actually that black shadow. The one who flew out was actually Feng Sanqiong. Feng Sanqiong's injuries weren't very terrible, but his soul aura was very chaotic. It was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. It seemed that he had suffered a serious injury. That black shadow new soul attack, seriously injuring Feng Sanqiong's soul? If not, how could Feng Sanqiong escape so easily? At this time, Feng Sanqiong had already stabilized his body. Just when Murong Yu thought that he would come back again, he saw Feng Sanqiong turn around and quickly escape into the distance. His figure didn't stop at all. This made Murong Yu quite speechless. But Murong Yu could also guess how serious the injury to Feng Sanqiong's soul was. Otherwise, he would never escape. Dong! 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 After Feng Sanqiong escaped, that black shadow turned around and strode towards Murong Yu. Murong Yu's heart sank. He knew that this time, it was really a disaster. And at this time, little Loli was still far away and couldn't rush back in time. Even if little Loli was by Murong Yu's side, with her strength, she wasn't this black shadow's opponent. Swish! Soon, the black shadow came to Murong Yu's side and stretched out a big hand to grab Murong Yu. But at this moment, the black shadow saw a strange smile on Murong Yu's face. The black shadow was startled and felt that something was wrong. Murong Yu's smile was really too strange. Divine Soul Slash. Just as the black silhouette sensed that something was amiss, Murong Yu suddenly roared. The black shadow was shocked, and his figure was about to retreat. But it was already too late. Murong Yu's soul attack had already slashed on his soul. With a boom, the black shadow's entire soul was almost shattered by Murong Yu's slash. The severe pain almost made the black shadow faint. At the same time, out of instinct, the black shadow continued to retreat quickly. Bang! Out of resentment towards Murong Yu, the black shadow punched at Murong Yu's body while retreating. A terrifying power surged out and actually directly blew up Murong Yu's body. Kill! His body was blown up, but Murong Yu's soul wasn't annihilated. Therefore, he didn't die. Moreover, at the moment when his body was blown up, a divine soul slash was once again slashed out. Chapter 1682. Poof! Under Muron Yu's shocked gaze, this black shadow soul crystal was directly split into two by Muron Yu's divine soul slash. Did this guy really fight with Feng Sangxiong for half a day? A ruthless person who could even beat back Feng Sangxiong, who was ranked 11th on the saint ranking? With a plop, the black silhouette fell straight to the ground. Under Muron Yu's astonished gaze, the black silhouette died just like that. Muron Yu was deeply shocked. For a moment, he actually didn't react. Or rather, he had been subdued. Originally, he didn't have any hope for his soul attack. He just wanted to stop the Black Shadow's attack and gain a chance to escape. But he didn't expect that he could directly kill the Black Shadow. What's the situation? Little Loli flew back and kicked the Black Shadow with her feet, but found that the Black Shadow didn't move at all and even had no breath of life. Therefore, little Loli looked at Muron Yu, who had recovered his physical body, with a puzzled and shocked gaze. Muron Yu himself didn't know what was going on and could only shake his head helplessly. Boom! At this moment, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the depths of the immemorial battlefield. Like a sudden clap of thunder, it quickly spread toward this side. Muron Yu's heart was suddenly enveloped by an extremely strong aura of death. In shock, he raised his head and looked at the depths of the immemorial battlefield. Suddenly, Muron Yu saw a big hand that covered half of the sky, shattering countless space and time, quickly grabbing towards him. Immediately, Muron Yu felt that the big hand might be targeting him. Therefore, Muron Yu didn't hesitate and stretched out his big hand to grab little Loli. At the same time, he rushed into the Hichu Luo Shu. Just when he wanted to teleport away, Muron Yu's heart moved. He stretched out his big hand and caught the Black Shadow and the nearby heart of the ocean into the Hichu Luo Shu. Infinite banishment. At this time, Muron Yu finally exiled himself. The moment he was exiled, Muron Yu's heart relaxed. But at this moment, all the hairs on his body stood on end. His heart was enveloped by an extremely strong aura of death. The speed of banishment was extremely fast. In just the blink of an eye, they could be banished from the ancient battlefield back to the Saint's world. However, at this moment, Muron Yu had an illusion that the speed of his exile had slowed down infinitely. A huge hand shattered the space of the ancient battlefield and reached into the void, grabbing the He-Tu and the Luo Shu that were being exiled. It was because of this hand that Muron Yu's hair stood on end. Muron Yu could clearly see the large hand that was rapidly approaching him. Immediately, he was scared half to death. The speed of the banishment was already extremely fast, but the big hand that was grabbing at him was even faster. When he saw the big hand for the first time, it was still far away on the horizon. But when he looked again, the big hand was already close to Hichu Luo Shu. In the next moment, Muron Yu could even feel the terrifying aura emitted from this big hand. At this moment, the big hand was already close to Hichu Luo Shu. Seeing the big hand grab fiercely, Muron Yu felt that Hichu Luo Shu's speed suddenly stagnated, and the 5 fingers of that big hand had already enveloped the entire Hichu Luo Shu. Hichu Luo Shu was about to be caught by the big hand, and Muron Yu was also deeply aware that once Hichu Luo Shu was caught, it would be impossible for him to escape even if he wanted to. The strength that erupted from this big hand was really too terrifying. It was even countless times stronger than Feng Sangxiong and that Black Shadow. Could it be a terrifying existence in the top 10 of the Saints' ranking? Or supreme? The big hand suddenly closed. Muron Yu was completely helpless at this moment, because in the banishment, he also couldn't change his speed, seeing that the big hand was about to catch Hichu Luo Shu. But at this moment, puff! With a sound, Muron Yu's eyes suddenly lit up and a familiar aura hit him in the face. At this critical moment, Muron Yu finally returned to the holy world. However, before he could breathe a sigh of relief, that big hand shattered the void and also appeared in the holy world. The big hand directly locked on a Hichu Luo Shu and quickly grabbed at him again. Muron Yu let out a strange cry and directly activated Hichu Luo Shu's teleportation ability. quickly teleporting back to the human territory. The place where he was banished to was still Blue Billows Island. However, what shocked Moronyu the most was that at the same time as the He-2 and the inscription of the Luo was sent out, the huge hand grabbed the void once again. Like a shadow attached to the body, it followed the He-2 and the inscription of the Luo and continued to grab at them. Whoosh! Moronyu appeared in the human territory of the Holy World. However, the moment Hichu Luoshu appeared, that big hand also shattered billions of space-time and appeared near Hichu Luoshu. The big hand shook and locked on a Hichu Luoshu and grabbed at him again. Moronyu was shocked. With a thought, Hichu Luoshu disappeared on the spot again. However, what made Moronyu helpless was that the big hand chased after him again. It seemed that no matter where Moronyu appeared, that big hand would break through the void and come at him at any time. It wouldn't give up until it caught Moronyu. Moronyu felt a headache coming on. Although that big hand was almost Moronyu every time, Moronyu couldn't shake it off. Could he only continue to run like this? If this continued for a long time, his mind would probably collapse. Big Baddie, if I didn't guess wrongly, the owner of this big hand should be a supreme being. The little loli looked at Moronyu with a serious expression and said in a low voice, "Plop." Moronyu staggered and almost fell to the ground. Then, he looked at the little loli speechlessly. "Are you sure this guy is a supreme being?" The little loli nodded seriously. Moronyu wanted to cry, but had no tears. Being chased by a supreme being? Was this his misfortune or his honor? Ordinary people hadn't even seen a supreme being before, let alone being chased by one. However, Moronyu was constantly being chased by a supreme being. Moreover, that supreme being didn't seem to give up until it killed Moronyu. This made Moronyu extremely frustrated. Is there any way to get rid of this guy? Moronyu wanted to cry, but had no tears as he looked at the little loli. The little loli also became serious at this time. The strength of a supreme being is not something you can estimate right now. Their strength is beyond your expectations. If I didn't guess wrongly, this supreme being's original body is definitely in the ancient battlefield, and a supreme being's strength can easily cover most of the sacred world. Once you are locked on by him, as long as you are still in the sacred world, you will be sensed by him. A supreme being is that strong? Isn't that a supreme being? Moronyu was speechless. If it was a supreme being, he could kill you with a thought. Why would he need to chase you? The little loli rolled her eyes. Moronyu felt even more frustrated. Is there any way to get rid of this guy? Although a supreme being is strong, his divine sense can't cover the entire sacred world. However, your aura has already been locked on. No matter where you go, he will chase after you. However, if you are far enough from the ancient battlefield, he won't be able to do anything to you. The little loli pondered for a moment before saying, "Divine world." Hearing the little loli's words, the two words divine world instantly appeared in Morongyu's mind. Although the sacred world was big, Moronyu hadn't been to many places, and these places couldn't be far from the ancient battlefield. Hichu Luoshu couldn't be teleported. Of course, Moronyu could fly over. However, how could his speed compare to that supreme being? Shwa. With a thought, Moronyu used the divine world's origin energy to teleport back to the divine world. The moment he returned to the divine world, he controlled the divine world's origin energy to attack the supreme being's hand with incomparable ferocity. Although the supreme being was strong, it was still 2 worlds away from the divine world. Although the power was still there, it wasn't that strong. And in the divine world, Moronyu was the absolute supreme being. Unless the supreme being could shatter the divine world with a single palm, perhaps the supreme being really had that strength. But this huge hand definitely didn't have that ability. Therefore, the moment this huge hand charged into the divine world with Moronyu, it was shattered by the divine world's origin energy controlled by Moronyu. At the same time, when the huge hand was shattered in the depths of the ancient battlefield, "Third brother, you failed? You can't even kill an ordinary primal chaos ancestor sage?" An illusory figure said in a deep voice with some displeasure. "Big brother, how is that guy an ordinary person? but as long as he returns to the sacred world, I will definitely kill him. The person chasing Murong, Yu's third brother. At this moment, he also said with a face of displeasure, "Forget it. If there's a chance next time, try to kill him in one go. In the sacred world, we can't make a move for now. Otherwise," the other person who didn't speak pointed to the sky and said with a gloomy face. The other two instantly fell silent. The three of them were already very kind to be able to stay in the ancient battlefield, and if they dared to make a move in the sacred world, even if they had the strength of a supreme being, there was a possibility that they would be killed. Little lowly, aren't there only 10 supreme beings in the sacred world? Do you know who that supreme being was? After killing the huge hand that was chasing him, Murong Yu finally heaved a sigh of relief. But very soon, he was puzzled again. The reason why he asked the little lowly and not Hichu was because he felt that the little lowly's background was deep and should be able to answer his question. The 10 supreme beings that we speak of are supreme beings that have been titled. And in the sacred world, other than these titled supreme beings, there are a few other supreme beings. The little lowly pondered for a moment before she finally said slowly. Murong Yu was stunned by the little lowly's words. That means that there aren't only 10 supreme beings in the sacred world. There are other supreme beings? Are there many? The little lowly rolled her eyes and looked at Murong Yu speechlessly. There are only about 100,000 experts on the saint rankings. Do you think there are many supreme beings or not? Based on my estimation, there are no more than 1,000 supreme beings in the entire sacred world. 1,000 supreme beings? Murong Yu swallowed his saliva. This was an extremely terrifying number. But very soon, Murong Yu had a new question. Since there were so many supreme beings in the sacred world, why hadn't he seen these supreme beings in the sacred world? Even the supreme beings hadn't appeared before. Chapter 1683. Looking at the black shadow in his hand, Murong Yu's face showed a touch of joy. Although this time, he was almost killed by Feng, Sangxiong, and the others. Finally, he was exiled to the ancient battlefield, but he was almost killed by the supremes of the ancient battlefield. However, this time, not only did he get the heart of the ocean, but he also killed that black shadow. The heart of the ocean was very powerful. Once Yu Mengqing refined it, although he didn't know if she could enter the supremes. There was absolutely no suspense in rushing into the holy list. As for the black shadow that was killed by Murong Yu, it was actually a young man. Strictly speaking, this was not a person, but a spiritual body. In other words, this person's whole body was composed of souls, just like those undead. However, it was much more advanced than the average undead. After all, this guy's strength was extremely terrifying. Even Feng Sangxiong was not his opponent. After studying for a while, Murong Yu knew why this young man was so weak. When this guy fought with Feng Sangxiong, although he succeeded in seriously injuring and repelling Feng Sangxiong, but he was also injured. Moreover, this person's ranking on the mortal saint list should be lower than Feng Sangxiong. The reason why he was so powerful was that this person was a soul saint. However, this person's soul was already injured before he caught Murong Yu, and he didn't expect that Murong Yu was also a soul saint, and Murong Yu's soul had reached the 6-star level. Therefore, the young man's soul was directly killed by Murong Yu in one blow. His soul was at least a 7-star level when he was alive. Murong Yu's face flashed with a touch of shock, and there was a trace of lingering fear in the depths of his eyes. If it wasn't for Feng Sangxiong's severely injured soul, Murong Yu wouldn't be his opponent at all, let alone kill him. A 7-star level soul. If I refine him, my soul will probably improve a lot. It has been a long time since my soul reached the 6-star level. It's also time to improve my realm. Murong Yu mumbled to himself. After that, he ignored the little lowly beside him and sat down cross-legged. He was about to devour the young man to improve his soul. The little lowly rolled her eyes, but she didn't disturb Murong Yu. Instead, she left. Murong Yu began to refine the young man. While Murong Yu was refining the young man, on Blue Billows Island, Xiao Yang and the others looked at each other. Although Murong Yu was exiled to the ancient battlefield and chased back to the divine world by Ji Zun, it seemed like a long time had passed. However, It didn't even take half a day. At this moment, the three of them looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. Bastard! The gloomy Xiao Yang suddenly shouted. He suddenly realized that Mu Rongyu, who he had thrown into his spatial treasure, had disappeared without him knowing. Who was that person? Could it be a Nine Heaven Supreme? Long Qing's eyes flickered coldly as he said in a deep voice. However, no one knew if he was talking to Ling Wenxing and Xiao Yang or talking to himself. Although the ocean's heart is rare, it's not worth a Nine Heaven Supreme to take action. That person seems to be a person. Ling Wenxing pondered for a long time before he suddenly said. Immediately, Long Qing and Xiao Yang looked at Ling Wenxing with puzzlement and confusion. Recently, a peerless genius has appeared in the human race, Mu Rongyu. This guy not only has the chaotic celestial body, but also Hichu Luo Shu. Just now, the ocean's heart and Feng Sangqiong's sudden disappearance was very similar to Hichu Luoshu's teleportation. Mu Rongyu? Long Qing and Xiao Yang frowned slightly. Are you sure it's Mu Rongyu? Ling Wenxing shook his head. He didn't dare to be sure. It was just a suspicion. However, Long Qing smiled coldly. Since that's the case, I'll make a trip to the human race. Chaotic celestial body, I didn't go find you, but you took the initiative to provoke me. As he spoke, Long Qing had already taken a step forward and disappeared on the spot. Xiao Yang also snorted coldly and followed Long Qing. He felt that the person he caught earlier seemed to be the one who took away the ocean's heart. It could also be Mu Rongyu. Mu Rongyu? I'm really interested in you. Ling Wenxing smiled slightly. Then, he took a step forward and also disappeared on the spot. After the three ruthless experts left, the experts near the Blue Billow Island also left one after another. In the end, only the people of the Blue Billow clan looked at the sinking Blue Billow Island and wanted to cry, but had no tears. Mu Rongyu, you and I can't live under the same sky. Phoenix clan, deep in Wudong Mountain. The void suddenly shattered, and a figure in a sorry state fell from the void. Then, he fell to the ground with his face flat on the ground. Then, a voice filled with incomparable resentment came out of this person's mouth. The slightly wrinkled mountain trembled violently, as if it was about to shatter. Swoosh! A figure stepped on the air and appeared beside this person. Then, that person looked at the person who fell to the ground and exclaimed, "Old ancestor, how did you end up like this?" The person who came was none other than Feng Qianquan, who was killed by Mu Rongyu once, the second strongest expert of the Phoenix clan. And there was only one person who could be called Old Ancestor by Feng Sangqiong. That was the Old Ancestor of the Phoenix clan, Feng Sangqiong. Feng Sangqiong got up from the ground. His body shook slightly, and he returned to his original appearance. But his face was very gloomy, so gloomy that it seemed as if water was about to drip out. His eyes flickered with an incomparably venomous light. Old Ancestor, did you meet Mu Rongyu? Did you suffer in his hands? Feng Qianquan couldn't help but be shocked when he thought of Feng Sangqiong's roar just now. And when he said the three words Mu Rongyu, Feng Qianquan's eyes were shining with intense resentment. What's the matter? Feng Sangqiong looked at Feng Qianquan indifferently. His tone was cold and contained a strong, murderous intent. Didn't Feng Qianquan go to deal with Mu Rongyu? And he even brought along the all-directional extermination array. However, Mu Rongyu had appeared on Jade Billow's island perfectly fine and had almost killed Feng Sangqiong in the end. Although Mu Rongyu didn't cause any direct harm to Feng Sangqiong. But Mu Rongyu banished Feng Sangqiong to the ancient battlefield. Feng Sangqiong didn't have time to settle the score with Mu Rongyu before he met that young man. He inexplicably fought with that young man. In the end, he was no match for the other party and his soul was injured. After losing, Feng Sangqiong fled. But he thought that this matter was over. But in less than half a day, an expert who made Feng Sangqiong's soul tremble suddenly attacked to kill him. That person was definitely a supreme. Feng Sangqiong didn't even have time to react and was killed by the other party's palm. Even if those three people weren't titled supreme, they were still supreme. Although the Holy List experts were powerful, The gap between them and Supreme was too big. Just like the Holy List experts and the Holy Ancestor, there was a huge gap between the two. Therefore, Feng Sangxiong didn't even have a chance to fight back. However, as the strongest old ancestor of the Feng clan, Feng Sangxiong, of course, cultivated the Phoenix Nirvana. It was because of the Phoenix Nirvana that Feng Sangxiong had the life to return to the Feng clan. But even so, Feng Sangxiong also lost his life. Feng Sangxiong, of course, hated the Supreme, who killed him. But the one he hated the most was Murongyu. If it wasn't for Murongyu, how could Feng Sangxiong die once? Even after he was resurrected, he almost couldn't come back. Although Feng Sangxiong's death wasn't directly caused by Murongyu, it couldn't be separated from Murongyu. And for the person who killed him, Feng Sangxiong's anger could be imagined. He and Murongyu were already irreconcilable. Investigate Murongyu's whereabouts for me. Do everything in your power to find out anything about him. Mobilize all forces to hunt down Murongyu and his related people. Kill everyone without mercy. Feng Sangxiong looked at Feng Qinkuan and said with killing intent. Feng Qinkuan was shocked. Previously, when Murongyu almost exterminated the Feng clan, Feng Sangxiong wasn't so angry. What did Murongyu do to Feng Sangxiong? What made him so angry? Feng Qinkuan was quite curious, but he didn't inquire. And Feng Sangxiong's order was exactly what he wanted. He also wanted to kill Murongyu and even the people related to Murongyu. Therefore, the Feng clan and those affiliated clans of the Feng clan, even those people and forces who wanted to curry favor with the Feng clan, began to inquire about Murongyu's whereabouts throughout the Holy World. A few days later, Feng Qinkuan came to Feng Sangxiong again. Is there any news about Murongyu? Feng Sangxiong looked at Feng Qinkuan and said indifferently. Feng Qinkuan nodded, but his face was very ugly. Feng Sangxiong's face was a little ugly, but he didn't say anything. He just glanced at Feng Qinkuan indifferently. Feng Qinkuan's heart trembled, and he quickly said, "There's no specific news about Murongyu and Shenzhen. But the news from the Holy Ranking said that Murongyu's ranking on the Holy Ranking soared again, and has already rushed to 90,000. Soared by 10,000? Feng Sangxiong was shocked, and his face became gloomier. Could it be that he has already refined the heart of the ocean? Feng Qinkuan wasn't surprised by this, because at this time, everyone in the Holy World knew that Murongyu had seized the heart of the ocean. And a few days after seizing the heart of the ocean, his strength soared. Feng Sangxiong couldn't help but think this way. Old ancestor, what should we do? We can't find Murongyu at all. If this bastard has refined the heart of the ocean, his strength will probably soar again. Feng Qinkuan's face revealed a strong, killing intent, because at this time, Murongyu's ranking on the Holy Ranking was already higher than his. At worst, we can ask the old ancestor to come out and directly kill Murongyu. Feng Sangxiong's eyes flashed with a terrifying, cold, killing intent. Old ancestor? A trace of doubt flashed across Feng Qinkuan's eyes, because he had never heard that the Phoenix clan had an even stronger old ancestor. As one of the peak clans of the Holy Clan, do you think our Phoenix clan only has this little strength? Feng Sangxiong smiled faintly, and his eyes flashed with cold light. Feng Qinkuan was startled, and then his face was filled with ecstasy. Chapter 1684. Murongyu naturally didn't know about the conversation between Feng Sangxiong and Feng Qinkuan. He also didn't know that the Feng clan actually had an old ancestor with unfathomable strength. At this time, he who was originally cultivating in Hichu Luoshu had already stopped. 7-star soul. Murongyu's face revealed a smile. That young man who almost killed Feng Sangxiong really didn't disappoint Murongyu's expectations. When Murongyu completely devoured the other party's soul, Murongyu's soul also successfully rushed into the 7-star soul. In the Holy World, there are only 9 realms of soul saints, from 1 star to 9 star. Among them, 1-star soul was the weakest and 9-star soul was the strongest. Murongyu, who reached 7-star soul, was already considered an expert among soul saints. At this time, the soul sea in Murong Yu's soul space had already doubled from the original 500 million miles to the current 1 billion miles. A soul sea with a radius of 1 billion miles, and it was even deeper than an ordinary ocean. At this time, even Murong Yu didn't know how much soul power he had. Moreover, after the soul reached 7-star, it wasn't as simple as increasing soul power. Murong Yu's soul attack had also skyrocketed countless times. Before the breakthrough, Murong Yu's soul attack couldn't do anything to an expert of Feng Sanqiong's level. Of course, if Feng Sanqiong's soul didn't have any protection, Murong Yu could still kill him. But he couldn't when the other party was defending. Now, Murong Yu felt that even if he faced Feng Sanqiong now, he also had the power to fight. After all, Feng Sanqiong was injured by the young man who was refined by Murong Yu. Although Murong Yu's soul wasn't as good as that young man, it was almost there. At this time, if he faced Feng Sanqiong, he wouldn't be afraid at all. The advancement of his soul finally made Murong Yu's soul battle technique that hadn't improved for a long time also had a breakthrough. Soul God Fist evolved into Soul Saint Fist. Soul Slash evolved into Saint Soul Slash, and Heaven Annihilation Divine Net also evolved into Heaven Annihilation Divine Net. As for Soul Storm, however, he didn't evolve. But even so, the might of the spiritual storm was more than 10 times stronger than before. In fact, just the improvement of his combat skills had increased his power by quite a bit. Coupled with the fact that Murong Yu's soul had grown increasingly powerful, Murong Yu's soul power had increased by at least 10 times. Just in terms of soul, Murong Yu already had the power to fight with Feng Sanqiong, this kind of expert. After this breakthrough, Murong Yu's cultivation had also broken through. Second Order Chaos Ancestor Saint. However, Murong Yu's physical body did not break through at the same time. After all, his physical body had already reached the level of a primal chaos ancestral artifact. If he made another breakthrough, it would become a supreme artifact. How could it be so easy to become a supreme weapon? Even so, Murong Yu's physical body was much stronger than before. Even among the primal chaos ancestral weapons, they were relatively powerful. What surprised Murong Yu the most was that the 9 characters mantra had also been upgraded. Although none of them had been upgraded, the power of each mantra was several times stronger than before. In general, Murong Yu's strength was now more than 10 times stronger than before. I wonder what my ranking on the holy list is now. Feng Qinquan and the others are no match for me at all, right? If I meet Feng Qinquan again, I'll kill him directly. Murong Yu sneered in his heart. However, what Murong Yu did not know was that his ranking on the holy list had indeed risen, surpassing Feng Qinquan. But it did not skyrocket as he had imagined. It only rushed to 90,000. This ranking did not seem to match Murong Yu's combat strength. To Murong Yu's surprise, not only did he break through, but Xianhua, who had been merging with the Heart of Devil in Hichu Luoshu, also broke through and successfully rushed into the holy list. However, Xianhua was different from Murong Yu. When Murong Yu was only a First Order Chaos Ancestor Saint, he had already rushed into the holy list. However, Xianhua only rushed into the holy list after reaching the 9th Order Chaos Ancestor Saint. It was the same even with the Heart of Devil. After all, there were not many monsters like Murong Yu in the world. At this time, although Xianhua had broken through, he was still consolidating his realm. In Murong Yu's opinion, this guy's ranking on the holy list was probably not very high. He should be similar to Yin Gaoan, who had merged with the Heart of Ice. However, once Xianhua completely merged with the Heart of Devil, his strength could still skyrocket. Mengqing, are you ready? Murong Yu held the Heart of Ocean in his hand and looked at Yu Mengqing with a serious expression. The Heart of Ocean was still arrogant, but after entering Hichu Luoshu, it was no longer under its control. It was directly suppressed by Murong Yu. At this time, Murong Yu was ready to let Yu Mengqing merge with the Heart of Ocean. Yu Mengqing's expression was serious, but there was also a trace of uncontrollable excitement as she nodded heavily. Kurlan and the rest rushed into the holy list. Although Yu Mengqing was not jealous, as they were all sisters, she was rather envious. Now, the Heart of Ocean gave her the opportunity to enter the Holy List and even had the possibility of becoming a paragon. How could she not be excited? In that case, prepare to merge with the Heart of Ocean. Murongyu nodded slightly, and then passed the Heart of Ocean to Yu Mengqing. Yu Mengqing received the Heart of Ocean excitedly. However, just as she received the Heart of Ocean, it started to tremble violently with a buzz. It even tried to break free from Yu Mengqing's control. Murongyu's face darkened immediately, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. Heart of Ocean, I'll give you two choices. Merge with Mengqing or die. As he spoke, Murongyu directly mobilized the power of Hichu Luoshu to suppress the Heart of Ocean. The Heart of Ocean trembled even more violently, and a trace of fluctuation spread out, containing traces of fear. The Heart of Ocean, the Heart of Ice, and the Heart of the Devil were all existences with spiritual awareness. Otherwise, they wouldn't have chosen their own masters. The Heart of Ocean trembled when it sensed Murongyu's intense, killing intent. It knew that Murongyu definitely had the ability to kill it, and Murongyu would definitely do such a thing. Thus, the Heart of Ocean stopped resisting. Although Yu Mengqing was not its ideal master, it did not want to die. Thus, under Murongyu's threat, the Heart of Ocean began to merge with Yu Mengqing. Because the Heart of Ocean was the one who initiated the process was very smooth and fast. Murongyu, Xianhua had already consolidated his cultivation and transmitted a message to Murongyu. Murongyu left a power clone by Yu Mengqing's side to protect her, while his true body appeared by Xianhua's side. Not bad. Once you've completely merged with the Heart of the Devil, it shouldn't be a problem for you to make it into the top 100 of the Saint rankings. Murongyu smiled. Xianhua also smiled, but soon a trace of hatred appeared on his face. Murongyu, I want to return to the Fiend clan for revenge. Apart from him and the ancestor of the Xian family, everyone else in the Xian family had been killed. The hatred of having his family annihilated still lingered in Xianhua's heart. It had become an inner demon for him. There are those among the 10 great Fiend clans who are stronger than you. With your strength, not only will you not be able to take revenge, you might even be killed by them. Murongyu frowned as he spoke in a deep voice. Xianhua's eyes were filled with hatred. On the surface, I'm no match for them, but I can assassinate them. Now that I've obtained the Heart of the Devil, I'll destroy all of the 10 great Fiend clans one day. Xianhua, do you want to unify the Fiend clan? Murongyu suddenly asked. Xianhua was stunned. Then, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. With his strength, he couldn't even take revenge, let alone unify the Fiend clan. The Fiend clan was also one of the top clans among the Sacred Clan. How difficult would it be to unify them? In fact, the Fiend clan wasn't even unified yet. Instead, it was controlled by the 10 great Fiend clans. I'm only asking you if you want to. Murongyu asked again, looking at the hesitant Xianhua. Yes, Xianhua had always had a trace of ambition. He was hesitant because he didn't have the strength. But just because he didn't have the strength, it didn't mean that he didn't want to unify the Fiend clan. Moreover, after merging with the Heart of the Devil, he would be the master of all the Fiend clans. This couldn't be changed unless he gave up the Heart of the Devil. But was that possible? It was impossible for Xianhua to give up the Heart of the Devil. Once the Heart of the Devil was still with him, he would be the enemy of all the Fiend clans. Everyone would want to snatch the Heart of the Devil. The solution to this was to suppress all the Fiend clans and become their master. Murongyu smiled and stretched out his hand in front of Xianhua. In his palm, there was a finger-sized ball. What is this? Xianhua was stunned. A trace of Mengman's soul, the Soul Pearl. As long as you want, you can crush this ball and Mengman will die immediately. As he spoke, Mengman appeared beside Murongyu. Xianhua was puzzled. He didn't know Mengman. After all, he was just a little genius from a small family. He didn't have any interaction with the experts on the Sacred ranking. Mengman was an expert who ranked more than 90,000 on the Sacred ranking. Greetings, Master. Mengman bowed respectfully to Xianhua. He had to be respectful because Xian Hua controlled his soul. Meng Man also knew that even if he snatched the soul pearl from Xian Hua, he wouldn't be able to regain his freedom because Murong Yu still controlled his soul. An expert who ranked more than 90,000 on the sacred ranking. When Murong Yu introduced Meng Man, Xian Hua was shocked. He was even more shocked by Murong Yu's strength. Even Meng Man was suppressed. How terrifying was Murong Yu's strength? Xian Hua was extremely confident in unifying the Fiend clan. As long as Murong Yu was willing to help, it shouldn't be difficult to unify the Fiend clan. At this moment, Meng Man was filled with confidence. Murong Yu didn't delay. He directly teleported back to the sacred world and flew towards the Fiend clan. During this process, the experts of the Phoenix clan arrived outside the spaceless tunnel. They seemed to have discovered Shangzhen's existence. Chapter 1685. Boom! Shangzhen and the others were cultivating in the Mountain Sea secret realm. Everything was as quiet as usual. Nothing had happened. However, all of a sudden, the entire Mountain Sea secret realm shook violently, as if it had been slapped by a super expert. Bang! 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 Shangzhen and the others, who were caught off guard, were immediately sent flying by the terrifying vibration. Some of the weaker Shangzhen disciples even spat out blood from their mouths. Some of the unlucky ones even had their bodies completely shattered. Enemy attack. Although Shangzhen's disciples were caught off guard, they quickly reacted. For a moment, many people cried out in alarm. Boom! 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 At this moment, the Mountain Sea secret realm shook even more violently. Shangzhen's experts could see that an incomparably terrifying force tore through the void and fiercely bombarded the Mountain Sea secret realm. Thus, many of Shangzhen's disciples saw the sky above the Mountain Sea secret realm being constantly shattered by those forces. However, at this moment, many of Shangzhen's disciples came to their senses. Bursts of power erupted from their bodies and quickly disappeared into the surrounding void. With the support of Shangzhen's disciples' power, the space of the Mountain Sea secret realm quickly stabilized. Although those forces were still bombarding the Mountain Sea secret realm, they could no longer shake the entire space. Even the sky was no longer shattered. Shangzhen's disciples heaved a sigh of relief. Who attacked Shangzhen? Zhao Jiqing and the other Shangzhen's experts stepped out and floated above Shangzhen's head, looking outside coldly. It's the people of the Phoenix clan. Murong Yu's energy clone also appeared beside Zhao Jiqing. He glanced at the people outside Shangzhen and sneered. Zhao Jiqing frowned slightly. In fact, she had already discovered that those people outside were experts of the Phoenix clan. However, how did the people of the Phoenix clan find the Mountain Sea secret realm? It should be known that when Murong Yu had resettled the Mountain Sea secret realm here, Shangzhen had not left the Mountain Sea secret realm. In fact, most of the disciples in Shangzhen didn't even know where they were. Therefore, it ruled out the possibility that someone in Shangzhen was a mole. It doesn't matter how they found us. These people actually dared to attack us. They are simply courting death. Zhang Ao, keep all of them here. Murong Yu's avatar said coldly. Zhang Ao didn't say anything. He took a step forward and rushed out of the Mountain Sea secret realm. Then, he immediately attacked. Boom! A terrifying power erupted from Zhang Ao's hand, instantly covering a radius of 5 million kilometers. It brought with it a world-destroying aura as it pressed down. Earlier, Zhang Ao and the other 12 had already charged into the Saint rankings with Murong Yu's help. Although there were many experts from the Phoenix clan outside, they were not weak. However, how could they be a match for Zhang Ao, an expert on the Saint rankings? In the blink of an eye, most of the people of the Phoenix clan were killed by Zhang Ao with a slap. Then, Zhang Ao attacked again and again, directly killing all the experts of the Phoenix clan. Not a single one was left alive. Swoosh! After killing many experts of the Phoenix clan, Zhang Ao returned to the Mountain Sea secret realm. However, he frowned slightly and came to Murong Yu's side. He said in a deep voice, "Sacred Master, I found that something is wrong with these people of the Phoenix clan. Although there are many of them, there's only one rank 9 chaotic ancestor saint. There are less than 100 chaotic ancestor saint experts in total. The rest of them are even weaker. Were the people of the Phoenix clan plotting? Shangzhen's upper echelons frowned. They all smelled a conspiracy. No matter what these people are plotting, we'll deal with them as they come. If they dare to invade, we'll just kill them. Murong Yu's avatar said coldly. Murong Yu, what's wrong? Murong Yu's original body had already appeared in the demon clan at this time. Seeing Murong Yu frowning slightly, Xianhua could not help but ask. Murong Yu shook his head slightly and said with a faint smile, I just suddenly thought of something. It's nothing. Let's continue. As he spoke, Murong Yu took the lead and soared into the sky and flew forward. When the Phoenix clan attacked the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, Murong Yu's original body already knew. How did the Phoenix clan find the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, and why there were so few people? And they were so weak? Was there a conspiracy? Murong Yu could not figure it out. However, just as his avatar had said, he would deal with whatever came his way. And this episode did not change Murong Yu's plan. The Demon Clan is not unified. The 10 great families almost control the entire Demon Clan. Of course, the Demon Clan is very big, and the 10 great families can't control all. Therefore, other than the 10 great families, there are other forces controlling the Demon Clan. However, as long as we suppress the 10 great families, we can basically control the entire Demon Clan. Xianhua explained to Murong Yu on the way. Murong Yu nodded slightly and turned to look at Meng Man. How strong are the 10 great families? How many experts on the saint ranking are there? What's the highest ranking? Although Murong Yu had already controlled Meng Man, he did not care about this at all. As for Xianhua, the Xian family was just an ordinary family in the Demon Clan. He did not know the strength of the 10 great families at all. The 10 great families, each family has at least 5 experts on the saint ranking. Their rankings are different. However, each of the 10 great families has a terrifying existence ranked in the top 1,000. The Qi family even has an ancestor ranked 30th on the saint ranking. When he said this, a trace of fear flashed in Meng Man's eyes. He must have suffered a loss at the hands of that ancestor. 30th on the saint ranking? Xianhua was almost scared to death. Previously, he did not know what the saint ranking was. After these few days of being taught by Murong Yu and Meng Man, Xianhua finally understood how terrifying the experts on the saint ranking were. Not to mention the top 100 experts on the saint ranking. Even the top 100,000 experts were terrifying. Meng Man was only at 90,000. As for him, the highest was only around 106,000. Moreover, other than the Qi family's ancestor, the other 10 great families all had an ancestor ranked in the top 1,000. How was he going to fight them? While he was shocked, Xianhua's face showed hesitation. In the end, he looked at Murong Yu. If he and Meng Man challenged the 10 great families with their strength, they would definitely be courting death. Now, he could only rely on Murong Yu. Murong Yu patted Xianhua's shoulder and said confidently, Don't worry, this time you will definitely unify the Demon Clan. Looking at Murong Yu's confident face, Xianhua did not know where his confidence came from, so he nodded. The hesitation on his face disappeared and was replaced with a look of determination. The Connoisseur, one of the 10 great families of the Demon Clan. It was also one of the weakest families of the 10 great families. Under Meng Man's continent, Murong Yu and Xianhua quickly appeared outside the Connoisseur. The 10 great families of the Demon Clan had the same status as the 10 sacred lands of the Human Clan. However, the 10 great families did not have as many disciples as the 10 sacred lands. After all, they were only families and not sections. Even so, the Connoisseur headquarters had hundreds of thousands of disciples. However, these people were scattered in the city. Only those core disciples could be in the Connoisseur. Stop, who are you? Take another step forward and kill without mercy. Murong Yu and the other two had just appeared in front of the Connoisseur when they were stopped by 2 fierce-looking servants. Although these 2 servants were only in the imperishable stage, they looked arrogant and looked down on people. dogs relying on their master's power. Among the three, Meng Man was the first to lose his temper. He was originally one of the Meng family's ancestors. How could he not be angry when these imperishable stage ants looked down on him? Get out of my way. Meng Man took a step forward. His expression was cold and murderous as he looked at the two servants. When the two imperishable stage servants met Meng Man's cold and murderous eyes, they were immediately frightened. However, they quickly reacted. "You're courting death." The two imperishable stage servants shouted and stepped forward at the same time. They fiercely pulled out the battle sabers at their waists and slashed at Meng Man. Seeing this scene, Murong Yu was immediately stunned. Were these two idiots stupid? Or stupid? Did they not know who was in front of them? Did they think Meng Man would not dare to attack them like the others? "You're courting death." Meng Man was so angry that he laughed and took a step forward. At the same time, the aura on his body suddenly exploded. Bang! Bang! The two servants were only imperishable stage small saints. How could they resist Meng Man's aura? Immediately, he was shattered into a cloud of blood mist by the aura. Even his soul was killed. Even the entire door of the connoisseur collapsed under the impact of the terrifying aura. Instantly, the deafening sound shocked many people inside and outside the connoisseur. After the shock, the connoisseur quickly reacted. Enemy attack. At the same time that they were calling the police, quite a few of them had already rushed toward Murong Yu's location. On the way, they used all kinds of unique skills to attack Murong Yu and the other two. Murong Yu stood in place calmly. Xianhua, who was next to him, was a little nervous. After all, he was facing one of the top 10 families of the evil demon clan this time. "Xing Yushan, get out here." Meng Man stood in place. The aura on his body swept out like a torrent. Those experts who were rushing over were constantly shaken off and sent flying away. The attacks of the disciples of the connoisseur could not even get close to Meng Man before they were shattered. Meng Man shouted at the connoisseur. The loud voice covered the entire connoisseur and even the entire city. It even quickly spread into the distance and covered many surrounding cities. Xing Yushan was the head of the connoisseur. Usually, in the connoisseur's territory, who dared to call Xing Yushan by his name? Therefore, Meng Man's shout directly stunned countless people. Many experts in nearby cities also flew over at high speed. Some were die-hard experts and experts of the connoisseur. Some just came to watch the show. Chapter 1686. How dare you? A rank 9, chaotic ancestor, saint flew out from the depths of the experts and roared fiercely. In the process, he reached out his large hand and slammed it toward Meng Man. It covered Murong Yu and Xianhua as it came crashing down on them. Murong Yu remained calm and stood where he was without a change in expression. Xianhua gradually calmed down as well. "You overestimate yourself." Meng Man was a little angry when he saw a rank 9 chaotic ancestor saint attacking him. He didn't seem to do anything, but he threw a punch at the peak primal chaos ancestral saint expert. "You're courting death." The peak chaotic ancestor saint was one of the experts and had terrifying strength. An ordinary rank 9 chaotic ancestor saint was no match for him. Although Meng Man's aura was powerful, he did not take it seriously. Therefore, he smirked and slammed his large hand down, intending to kill Murong Yu and the other two with one slap. Little did they know that although Meng Man was also a peak chaotic ancestor saint, he was actually an expert on the saint ranking. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the attacks of the two men collided in midair. Many disciples of the experts watched in anticipation as their ancestor's large hand was shattered by Meng Man's punch. Meng Man's fist did not stop at all and continued forward. After a loud noise, all the experts revealed looks of shock and disbelief. This was because the powerful ancestor in their eyes had been blown up by Meng Man's punch. Was this still an expert ancestor? Other than the experts on the saint ranking, this ancestor's strength was definitely in the top 5. However, the ancestor had been killed just like that. The ancestor must have been careless. That's why he was blown up by this person. When the ancestor recovers his physical body, it will be the death of this person. Many disciples of the experts had this thought in their minds. However, what shocked them was that their ancestor had not recovered his physical body at all. In other words, this ancestor had been killed by Meng Man with one punch. How terrifying was this person's strength to kill an ancestor with one punch? For a moment, all the experts gasped and looked at Meng Man in horror. Their bodies unknowingly retreated. Xing Yushan, if you don't come out now, you experts will all die. After killing an expert patriarch with a single punch and intimidating many experts, Meng Man didn't attack again. Instead, he started to clamor again. He knew that this time, he was not here to destroy the experts, but to subdue them. Meng Man, what do you mean? Could it be that the Meng clan wants to start a war with me? Even if your Meng family is powerful, we experts are not easy to bully. An angry voice filled with killing intent came out. At the same time, 5 figures appeared in the line of sight of Murong Yu and the other 2. The one who spoke was a handsome, middle-aged man. However, at this moment, his face was filled with rage. A terrifying killing intent erupted from his body, enveloping the entire place and locking onto Meng Man. This person was Xing Yushan, the clan leader of the experts. You think too much. I'm not here on behalf of the Meng family. I'm here on behalf of my lord. Xing Yushan, are you willing to submit? What? Hearing Meng Man's words, although Xing Yushan and the others were extremely angry, they were also shocked. Didn't Meng Man leave the Meng family? Then who was his lord? For a moment, Xing Yushan and the others kept glancing at Murong Yu and Xianhua. In the end, their gazes were focused on Murong Yu. After all, Murong Yu had been in a high position for a long time and already had the aura of a superior. Although Xianhua had merged with the heart of devil, he didn't have the aura of Murong Yu. Murong Yu gestured to Xianhua. Xianhua took a step forward and stood on the other side of Meng Man. He glanced at the experts and said in a deep voice, Meng Man's lord is me, Xianhua, the master chosen by the heart of devil. In the beginning, Xianhua felt that he did not have enough confidence and was a little timid in the face of so many experts from the grand race. But in the end, he calmed down. Heart of devil? You're Xianhua? Hearing Xianhua's words, Xing Yushan and the others were shocked. However, soon, their gazes were focused on Xianhua. They couldn't help but reveal a strong sense of greed in their eyes. At this time, they were still thinking of snatching the heart of devil. Heart of devil? Haha, Xianhua, you're really bold. You actually dare to appear in front of the experts. We experts would like to thank you. Thank you for giving us the heart of devil. Thank you for allowing us experts to become the masters of the entire devil tribe. I believe that it won't be long before we experts unify the entire devil tribe. Xing Yushan suddenly laughed loudly. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and grabbed at Xianhua. At the same time, the 4 experts on the saint rankings by his side attacked Meng Man as well. As for Murong Yu, he was just a stage 2 chaotic ancestor sage. They directly ignored him. Xianhua's face changed suddenly. It was extremely gloomy and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. He took a step forward fearlessly and attacked as well, throwing a punch at Xing Yushan. On the other hand, Meng Man was enraged. He immediately charged at the 4 experts on the saint ranking. A terrifying aura erupted from his body and shot up into the sky. In an instant, it enveloped the entire city. As for Meng Man, he locked onto the 4 experts on the saint rankings and unleashed his most violent attacks. Boom! In a flash, Xianhua had already exchanged a blow with Xing Yushan. Although Xianhua had already entered the saint ranking, his ranking was far below Xing Yushan's. Therefore, Xianhua was immediately sent flying after the exchange of blows. However, Xing Yushan's body only swayed slightly. Then, Xing Yushan laughed loudly and took a step forward. In a flash, he turned into a stream of light and charged at Xianhua. Murong Yu still stood motionless with his arms crossed in front of his chest. However, Meng Man panicked when he saw this. Boom, 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 boom. Meng Man unleashed his strongest power and sent the 4 experts of the Meng clan flying. With a sway of his body, he smashed through the void and pounced towards Xing Yushan. Xing Yushan, I'm your opponent. Go to hell. As he shouted, Meng Man's large hand broke through the endless space-time and locked onto Xing Yushan's head. Xing Yushan was shocked. He had no choice but to give up on killing Xianhua and fight Meng Man. However, Xing Yushan fell helpless because Meng Man's ranking on the Saint ranking was much higher than his. He was no match for Meng Man alone. The other 4 experts on the Saint ranking were no match for Meng Man either. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been sent flying by Meng Man. Let's attack together and take down Meng Man first. Xing Yushan was enraged as he was forced to retreat by Meng Man. The 4 experts on the Saint ranking shamelessly pounced on Meng Man. However, Xing Yushan was speechless because Meng Man seemed to be on steroids today. He was extremely brave. Why were the 5 of them tied with Meng Man? In fact, Xing Yushan was at a disadvantage. Hey Xianhua, as Meng Man's group of 6 fought in the sky, the ordinary primal chaos ancestor sages let out a battle cry and unleashed powerful attacks at Murongyu and Xianhua. You're courting death. Xianhua couldn't help but recall the moment when Xian family had been destroyed when he saw these people attacking. There were also experts among the people who had destroyed Xianhua. With a roar, Xianhua attacked directly. Bang! 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 Xianhua was an expert on the Saint ranking, and he had attacked in anger. How could these ordinary experts withstand it? Xianhua had killed dozens of chaotic ancestor sages and other experts with a single punch. Kill him from afar. Seeing how ferocious Xianhua was, the experts quickly retreated and began to attack Xianhua from afar. However, Xianhua had told them the difference between an ordinary expert and an expert on the Saint ranking. In a flash, Xianhua had already rushed into the crowd and started a massacre. Murongyu didn't stop him. If he wanted to unify the evil demon clan, he had to kill. Those who were killed were afraid and naturally submitted. Like a wolf in a flock of sheep, it didn't take long for many experts to be killed by Xianhua. Seeing this scene, Xing Yushan and the other experts on the Saint ranking were furious. They had wanted to kill Xianhua more than once, but they were held back by Meng Man. The 5 of them couldn't do anything to Meng Man. In fact, if Meng Man was replaced by Feng Qianquan, these people would have been killed long ago. Meng Man's strength was still a little inferior to Feng Qianquan's. Enough! At this moment, a soft voice came from the depths of the experts. Although the voice wasn't loud, it sounded like thunder in Meng Man and Xianhua's ears, exploding their eardrums. At the same time, an extremely terrifying pressure appeared out of thin air. Bang! Bang! 2 heavy objects fell to the ground with a dull thud. Looking over, they saw that Meng Man and Xianhua, who were extremely fierce just now, had been suppressed on the ground. However, the experts didn't feel any pressure. At the same time, a middle-aged man appeared in front of everyone. Seeing Murongyu still standing there calmly, the middle-aged man who had just appeared couldn't help but exclaim. One must know that his immense pressure didn't just suppress Xianhua and Meng Man, but also Murongyu. However, his pressure didn't seem to have any effect on Murongyu at all, so he couldn't help but be surprised. This person's strength is much stronger than mine. The expert's great ancestor muttered to himself. At the same time, he looked at Murongyu with an extremely vigilant gaze. His face was full of seriousness. Chapter 1687. Who are you? Xing Yuan looked at Murongyu cautiously. Xing Yuan was the elder ancestor of the connoisseurs, and he was the most powerful one. His ranking on the Saint ranking was as high as 600. He was in the top 1,000 on the Saint ranking. It was because of Xing Yuan that the connoisseurs were able to remain as one of the top 10 families in the demon tribe. Otherwise, they would have fallen long ago. Xing Yushan and the rest heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the elder ancestor. However, they soon realized that something was amiss. Why was the elder ancestor, who had always been fearless and overbearing, looking at the stage 2 chaotic ancestor, Saint with caution? This was something that they had never seen before. Did the stage 2 chaotic ancestor saint have a powerful background? Xing Yushan and the rest did not suspect that Xing Yuan was being cautious because of Murong Yu's strength. After all, Murong Yu looked like a stage 2 chaotic ancestor saint. Moreover, they did not realize how powerful Murong Yu was. Murong Yu glanced at Xing Yuan and snorted coldly. At this moment, Xian Hua and Meng Man, who were suppressed by Xing Yuan's aura and could not move, felt that the terrifying power that was suppressing them had disappeared. The two of them were shocked, but they knew that Murong Yu had made a move. Hence, they returned to Murong Yu's side without a word and looked at Xing Yuan solemnly. Xing Yuan was too powerful. He could suppress them with just his aura alone. Other than Murong Yu, no one else was his match. Xing Yuan was shocked when he saw that Murong Yu did not answer his question and had easily removed his suppression on Xian Hua, and Meng Man. Xing Yuan's heart skipped a beat, and he had a higher opinion of Murong Yu. At the same time, his expression became more solemn and cautious. "Who are you?" Xing Yuan took a step forward and looked at Murong Yu solemnly. Xing Yushan and the rest were shocked when they heard that. They had never seen Xing Yuan so polite before. There had been cases of people breaking into the connoisseurs, but Xing Yuan had killed them without a word. In the fiend race, even the old ancestors of the other 9 great clans, Xing Yuan, could be disrespected, overbearing, and protective. This was the impression that Xing Yuan had given to Xing Yushan and the others. However, everything had been overturned today. Seeing the expressions of Xing Yushan and the others, how could Xing Yuan not know what they were thinking? But only he knew why he had become so polite. Murong Yu just stood there casually. He didn't say anything, nor did he release any powerful aura. Even so, it still gave Xing Yuan a huge amount of pressure. Even when facing Murong Yu, Xing Yuan's heart was enveloped by an extremely strong aura of death. Even the old ancestors of the 9 super clans did not make Xing Yuan feel this way. "Xing Yuan, submit." Murong Yu looked at Xing Yuan and didn't answer his question. Instead, he said something that made the experts feel like it was a joke from a fairy tale. "What are you? How dare you ask our old ancestors to submit?" Before Xing Yuan could speak, one of the other 5 experts on the saint ranking stepped forward and shouted at Murong Yu. A cold, murderous intent flashed across Murong Yu's eyes. At the same time, he struck out with his palm. "Oh no!" When Xing Yuan saw Murong Yu make a move, a bad feeling immediately welled up in his heart. At the same time, he also attacked. However, at the same time he made his move, an incomparably clear pa sound rang out, enveloping the entire Xing manor. At the same time, the expert on the saint ranking who shouted at Murong Yu spat out blood and was sent flying. Only then did everyone see that the expert on the saint ranking's head had been smashed. He was sent flying by Murong Yu's slap. What terrifying strength! The experts' hearts skipped a beat. They were all shocked by Murong Yu's strength. They didn't even see how Murong Yu attacked. In fact, it wasn't just him. Even Xing Yuan, who was ranked 600th on the saint ranking, didn't see how Murong Yu attacked. Even though Xing Yuan had already noticed Murong Yu's attack, he couldn't make it in time. The moment he attacked, Murong Yu had already sent the expert on the saint ranking flying with a slap. "How dare you?" Xing Yuan was shocked. However, he was infuriated by Murong Yu's arrogance. Murong Yu slapped the expert on the saint ranking, which was a slap to Xing Yuan's face. Xing Yuan shouted and took a step forward. He reached out his hand and attacked Murong Yu. Murong Yu stood calmly on the spot. His expression didn't change at all. "Xing Yuan, I'll only give you one chance. Submit or die." Looking at Murong Yu's indifferent expression, Xing Yuan's heart sank. Unknowingly, the attacks aimed at Murong Yu also stopped. "Who do you think you are? We experts are one of the top 10 families in the evil demon tribe. How dare you ask us to submit to you? You must be dreaming." Xing Yushan was afraid of Murong Yu, but he couldn't help but shout. However, as he spoke, he walked behind Xing Yuan without leaving a trace. He was probably afraid that Murong Yu would send him flying with a slap. "Ancestor, although this person is powerful, if we join forces, we might be able to kill him. Once we kill him, Xianhua won't be able to escape. As long as we get the evil demon's heart, the entire evil demon tribe will belong to us experts. While shouting at Murongyu, Xing Yushan transmitted his voice to Xing Yuan. Hearing this, Xing Yuan's eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. At the same time, he laughed out loud. Where did this arrogant kid come from? I'll kill you today. As he spoke, Xing Yuan attacked. He threw a punch at Murongyu. A cold light flashed in Murongyu's eyes. Looks like you've made your choice. Since that's the case, I'll beat you until you submit. Both of you back off. I'll suppress this guy who doesn't know what's good for him. After Murongyu shouted at Xianhua and Mengman to back off, he took a step forward. Boom! At the same time, Murongyu finally released his terrifying aura after breaking through. Plop! Just as Murongyu's aura enveloped the entire Xing mansion, countless disciples in the mansion were suppressed. One by one, they fell to the ground with a look of horror on their faces. Their bodies were trembling uncontrollably. Even the primal chaos ancestor saints were the same. No one was spared. Only the experts on the saint ranking could hold on for a while, but only for a while. After a moment, all the experts except for their ancestor, Xing Yuan, including their patriarch, Xing Yushan, couldn't withstand Murongyu's aura and fell to the ground. Shock. There was nothing but shock. Even Xianhua and Mengman were the same. They all knew that Murongyu was powerful, but they didn't expect Murongyu's strength to be so terrifying. Just his aura alone suppressed almost all the experts. While everyone was shocked by Murongyu's strength, Murongyu was somewhat dissatisfied, because he originally thought that his aura could suppress Xing Yuan, but now Xing Yuan was clearly not suppressed. Although Xing Yuan was resisting with great difficulty and pain, he was still not suppressed, right? If Xing Yuan knew what Murongyu was thinking right now, he'd probably faint on the spot. At this moment, he was resisting with great difficulty and pain. Murongyu's aura was like an ancient fierce beast, powerful and ferocious. Even though Xing Yuan used all his strength, he still couldn't withstand it. However, he was still unable to resist and was gradually suppressed by Murongyu's pressure. Xing Yuan felt that he wouldn't be able to withstand it after a while. At that time, he would be like Xing Yushan and the others, suppressed by Murongyu and lying on the ground like a dead dog. Embarrassing. He was an expert ranked 600th on the Saint leaderboard. How could he be suppressed by a person's aura? Even if this person's ranking on the human Saint leaderboard was higher than his, it was still not enough. Every expert on the Saint leaderboard had their own dignity as an expert. The stronger one was, the stronger this dignity was. Therefore, Xing Yuan's heart was burning with rage. All of a sudden, Xing Yuan let out an explosive roar, shattering Murongyu's pressure. His entire body smashed through billions of space-time, and his entire body was like an ancient fierce beast as he charged toward Murongyu. During this process, he had gathered all his strength in the top-grade Chaos Ancestral artifact in his hand and slashed down at Murongyu. A look of surprise flashed across Murongyu's eyes. At this moment, Xing Yuan's strength was twice as strong as before. He was probably ranked 500th or even 500th on the Saint leaderboard. However, even so, it was useless. There was still a huge gap between his strength and Murongyu's. You overestimate yourself. Murongyu shook his head and said in disdain. At the same time, he threw out a punch. Boom! Crack! In a split second, Murongyu's fist had already smashed into the Chaos Ancestral artifact in Xing Yuan's hand. In less than 100th of a second, the top-grade Chaos Ancestral artifact in Xing Yuan's hand actually shattered into countless pieces and splattered in all directions. Breaking the top-grade Chaos Ancestral artifact with a single punch? At this moment, aside from Murongyu, everyone else was stunned. Just how powerful was his strength and body? Everyone wasn't just shocked, they were speechless. They were speechless because of Murongyu's strength. Little did they know that Murongyu's physical body had already reached the level of a Chaos Ancestral artifact. After the breakthrough a few days ago, although his physical body hadn't reached the level of a supreme artifact, it was much stronger than before. In addition to Murongyu's own strength, it was relatively easy for him to break a chaos ancestral artifact. While Xing Yuan was still in shock, Murong Yu's fist had already pushed forward and landed on Xing Yuan's body. With a bang, Xing Yuan's physical body exploded into a cloud of blood mist that bloomed in the void. Seeing this, Xing Yushan and the others felt a chill in their hearts. Murong Yu was too powerful. Even their old ancestor wasn't a match for Murong Yu. Chapter 1688. Bang! While Xing Yushan and the other experts felt their hearts turn cold and were at a loss, their ancestor Xing Yuan's figure appeared in front of them once again. Murong Yu had only destroyed Xing Yuan's physical body with one punch. He did not destroy him, nor did he kill his soul. Otherwise, how could he recover his physical body? Destruction and annihilation were two completely different concepts. Only the physical body would be destroyed. However, after the physical body was destroyed, the visible and invisible fragments would still exist. As long as the person who was destroyed was willing, they could reassemble the fragments and recover their physical body with just a thought. But annihilation was different. All the fragments would be destroyed so that they would not be able to recover. Given Murong Yu's current strength, it would be quite easy for him to destroy Xing Yuan. Therefore, after Xing Yuan recovered his physical body, he looked at Murong Yu with a grave expression. In fact, there was even a hint of fear in the depths of his eyes. However, Xing Yushan and the others were relieved. As long as their ancestor was not destroyed, there was a possibility of killing Murong Yu. As long as they were experts, they would not be destroyed. Xing Yuan, I'll give you one more chance. Submit or die. Murong Yu did not make a move immediately. Instead, he looked at Xing Yuan indifferently. However, Murong Yu's behavior gave Xing Yuan a lot of pressure. When he thought about Murong Yu's terrifying strength, Xing Yuan's heart turned cold. Instead of answering Murong Yu, Xing Yuan stared at Murong Yu and asked, "Who exactly are you?" Murong Yu smiled. At this point, there was no need for him to hide his identity. After all, it would spread sooner or later. Therefore, he said, "Murong Yu." "What? You're Murong Yu?" Hearing Murong Yu's words, the experts were shocked. In particular, Xing Yuan was not scared to death. They knew that Murong Yu had saved Xianhua. The Fiend race even cooperated with the Phoenix race to kill Murong Yu. Meng Man was the expert they had sent out. But now, Meng Man had become Murong Yu's subordinate. In other words, their plan to kill Murong Yu had failed once again. Moreover, Xing Yuan had also witnessed Murong Yu's strength. However, he was still the ancestor of an expert, one of the top powerhouses of the Fiend clan. How could he submit to Murong Yu? Whoosh! All of a sudden, the expert ancestor's figure flashed. His entire body broke through the void and fled towards the distance. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Especially the experts. They were so stunned that they couldn't react. Their ancestor had actually fled without a fight. Furthermore, he did not pay any attention to them at all. Murong Yu was also stunned. This Xing Yuan did not have the demeanor of an expert at all. He actually fled just like that. However, Murong Yu quickly came to his senses. He snorted coldly, took a step forward, and disappeared from where he was. Although you are extremely powerful, don't expect me to submit to you. Even if I can't defeat you, can I escape? Xing Yuan thought helplessly. He also knew that his actions today would definitely cause his reputation in the Fiend race to plummet. He might even be laughed at by others. However, he was unwilling to submit. Rather than being laughed at, he would rather be free. Freedom was the most important thing. Whoosh! Xing Yuan, who was flying at high speed, suddenly stopped as if he had braked. Xing Yuan, who had suddenly stopped, looked ahead with a pale face. Deep in his eyes, there was fear. This was because not far in front of him, Murong Yu was looking at him with a smile. He was extremely powerful, and his speed was extremely fast. A feeling of helplessness surged in Xing Yuan's heart. In front of Murong Yu, he was like an ant. He could not defeat Murong Yu at all. He did not even have the qualifications to fight with Murong Yu. Murong Yu's face suddenly turned cold. Xing Yuan, the expert, ranked 600th on the Saint ranking. Your strength is not bad. However, you are too stupid. You wasted 2 chances. In the end, you still forced me to make a move. Boom! Yu had just finished speaking when Xing Yuan made a move. In an instant, he exploded with his strongest attack towards Yu. He had a bad feeling for Yu's words. Since Yu had made a move, there were only 2 endings for him: fall or become Yu's slave. No matter which ending it was, Xing Yuan was unwilling to choose. Hence, he made a move decisively. However, Yu could even fight against experts like Feng Sangqiong, let alone Xing Yuan. In a flash, Yu avoided Xing Yuan's attack. Then, Yu made a move. One move, and it was still one move. Yu only threw out a simple punch, and Xing Yuan was killed without being able to dodge. This made Xing Yuan feel very helpless. The difference in strength between the two was really too big. Moreover, this time, Yu didn't plan to talk nonsense with Xing Yuan. This guy didn't have any thoughts of surrendering. No matter how many options he had, he wouldn't choose. Hence, after destroying Xing Yuan's physical body with one punch, Yu reached out his hand and directly controlled Xing Yuan's soul. Xing Yuan was terrified. Yu, what are you doing? You refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Originally, as long as you surrendered, I didn't plan to do anything to you. Now, you only have yourself to blame for everything. While speaking, Yu's incomparably huge soul directly covered Xing Yuan's soul. Amidst Xing Yuan's screams, Yu quickly controlled his soul. Although Xing Yuan wasn't a soul saint, the soul of an expert on the saint ranking was very powerful. If Yu hadn't broken through, it wouldn't be so easy to control his soul. However, his soul had already reached the 7-star level. In front of a 7-star soul, Xing Yuan's soul was completely powerless. Saint Lord, Xing Yuan recovered his soul and stood in front of Yu. He bowed respectfully to Yu. Although he wasn't willing to do so, he had already become Yu's slave. Now, if Yu wanted him dead, he didn't even need to lift a finger. With just a thought, he would die without a doubt. Everyone back down. Do what you need to do. After returning to the sky above the experts, Xing Yuan shouted loudly. Seeing that the old ancestor who had escaped had returned and was respectful to Yu, Xing Yushan and the others had a bad feeling in their hearts. Sure enough, after Xing Yuan shouted at everyone to back down, only the experts on the saint ranking remained. Old ancestor, are we really going to submit to Yu? In the hall, one of the experts on the saint ranking looked at Xing Yuan in disbelief. Slap! Xing Yuan immediately slapped him. The difference in strength between the two was too great. Xing Yushan and the others couldn't react at all. Lord Xianhua is the master chosen by the evil demon's heart. In the future, he will definitely control the entire evil demon tribe and become the master of all the evil demon tribe. We experts will be the meritorious subjects who will help Lord conquer the world. Once the evil demon tribe is unified, we experts will be the founders of the evil demon tribe. Xing Yuan glanced at Xing Yushan and the others and said in a deep voice. Xing Yushan and the others nodded slightly. However, they were still unwilling to submit. You guys are really stubborn. You forced me to make a move. Yu frowned slightly and said coldly. At the same time, his terrifying aura erupted and instantly enveloped the entire hall. Plop! Xing Yushan and the other 4 experts on the saint ranking were directly suppressed to the ground. Yu didn't hold back and directly control their souls. In the end, Yu even gave their soul pearls to Xianhua. Even Xing Yuan's soul pearl was the same. In other words, Xianhua now controlled the life and death of Xing Yuan and the others. As long as Xianhua crushed their soul pearls, they would immediately die. After forcefully controlling the experts' ancestors, Xianhua finally controlled the experts. However, this was just the beginning. The experts were only the weakest among the 10 great families. There were still 9 families waiting for Xianhua to subdue. Lord, we experts are on good terms with the Ning family. I can send a message to Ning Haoran and ask him to come over. Then, we can quickly control him with lightning speed. After that, we can control the entire Ning family. Before Murong, you could say anything. Xing Yuan had already suggested a plan. This was the benefit of controlling their souls. If Xian Hua or Murong Yu died, they would also die. Moreover, once their plan to unify the evil demon tribe failed, they might be killed. If they helped Xian Hua unify the evil demon tribe, their position in Xian Hua's heart would be higher. Therefore, Xing Yuan offered a plan. How's Ning Haoran's strength? Murong Yu asked indifferently. Ranked 100th on the saint rankings. Xing Yuan said in a deep voice. Xian Hua and Meng Man couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Xing Yuan was really bold. With their strength, they dared to ambush Ning Haoran, ranked 100th on the saint rankings. If not for Murong Yu, they would have died without a doubt. They were no match for Ning Haoran at all. However, wasn't there Murong Yu? It was also because of Murong Yu that Xing Yuan dared to sacrifice and set up an ambush. Murong Yu nodded. A powerhouse ranked 100th on the saint rankings was still no threat to him. Moreover, this was much better than attacking the Ning family directly. Therefore, Xing Yuan sent out an invitation to Ning Haoran to come over. During this process, Xing Yuan used a great magical power to erase the memories of the experts and those in the city who had seen Murong Yu. This was something that Murong Yu suddenly thought of. He had too many enemies and too powerful. If his relationship with Xian Hua was exposed, Xian Hua would definitely be targeted by Feng Sanxiong and the others. With Feng Sanxiong's strength, Xian Hua couldn't resist at all. What's more, Murong Yu had also offended the three sovereigns of the immemorial battlefield. These three people were Murong Yu's biggest enemies now. Ning family was not far from the experts. Very soon, Ning Haoran arrived at the expert's place. On the other hand, Xing Yuan welcomed Ning Haoran with a hearty laugh and led him into the main hall. Lord, this person is one of the people who killed Zhao Yun back then. Ning Haoran had just entered the main hall when Hichu's voice rang in Murong Yu's mind. Chapter 1689. One of Zhao Yun's murderers. Murong Yu's heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but reveal a complicated expression. There was only one chaos celestial body in the entire chaos. Just like now, Murong Yu was the only chaotic celestial body in the entire primal chaos. If Murong Yu had continued to exist, there wouldn't have been a second chaos celestial body. Unless Murong Yu had perished, a second chaos celestial body constitution would have been born from the chaos. In other words, everyone who possessed a chaos celestial body constitution before Murong Yu could be considered a past incarnation of Murong Yu. However, they didn't have any memories or inheritance. Every chaos celestial body was an independent existence. They seemed to be the same person, but they didn't seem to be the same person. Zhao Yun was the chaos celestial body Murong Yu had been born before. If Zhao Yun hadn't perished, Murong Yu wouldn't have existed. In other words, if Zhao Yun hadn't perished, there wouldn't have been a Murong Yu. On the other hand, Murong Yu had to thank those who had killed Zhao Yun. Without them, there wouldn't have been a Murong Yu. However, Murong Yu had tacitly acknowledged Zhao Yun as his master, and he'd long since sworn to avenge him. Faced with such a dilemma, Murong Yu's face revealed a complicated expression. Moreover, Murong Yu had originally planned on subduing Ning Haoran. If he hadn't, the Ning family wouldn't have been used by Xian Hua. Should he kill Ning Haoran or control him? Murong Yu muttered to himself, but his gaze couldn't help but linger on Ning Haoran. Sensing Murong Yu's gaze, Ning Haoran glanced over. Seeing Murong Yu's complicated expression, Ning Haoran felt a little strange. However, when he saw that Murong Yu was only a second-rank Chaos Ancestor Saint, he revealed a trace of displeasure. Moreover, Murong Yu, a second-stage Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage, was actually qualified to be in the hall. This made him feel somewhat displeased. After all, he was ranked 100th on the Saint rankings. Even some of the experts ranked lower than him on the Saint rankings weren't qualified to be in the same hall as him. Ning Haoran glanced around and suddenly saw Meng Man. He was immediately taken aback. He knew who Meng Man was. Because when Ming Man was sent to cooperate with the Phoenixes to kill Murong Yu, it was also with his approval. However, why did Ming Man suddenly appear here? And why did the person beside him look so much like Xianhua? Before obtaining the Devil's Heart, Xianhua was just a minor character who was completely unworthy of the attention of these Saint Rankings powerhouses. However, ever since Xianhua obtained the Devil's Heart, his appearance had been memorized by experts like Ning Haoren. Could it be that the expert has already caught Xianhua? Ning Jia's mind suddenly had this idea. As soon as this thought appeared, it couldn't be suppressed. He looked at Xing Yuan with a smile. His eyes were filled with admiration. You've truly lived up to our friendship. You actually informed me of such a great benefit. Seeing Ning Haoren's joyful expression, Murong Yu and the rest were instantly flustered. They didn't know if Ning Haoren had taken the wrong medicine. If Murong Yu and the rest knew what Ning Haoren was thinking at this moment, they would probably faint. That's Ning family's ancestor, Ning Haoren, right? At this moment, Xianhua took a step forward and looked at Ning Haoren as he said in a deep voice. After what happened earlier, Xianhua had calmed down. He was no longer nervous in front of Ning Haoren, who was ranked 100th on the Saint Rankings. Seeing that Xianhua actually dared to speak to him like that, Ning Haoren was stunned. Then, he was a little angry. Xing Yuan, what's wrong with you? You've captured Xianhua. Why didn't you seal his strength? As he spoke, Ning Haoren reached out his hand and directly grabbed Xianhua. Captured Xianhua? Hearing that, Murong Yu and the rest staggered and almost fell to the ground. Ning Haoren's imagination was too rich, wasn't it? Wait! Seeing that Ning Haoren made a move, Xianhua's eyes flashed with nervousness, but he still shouted. Ning Haoren's eyes flashed with surprise, but he stopped in the end. Perhaps it was because he was confident in his strength that he wasn't afraid of Xianhua running away. Looking at Xianhua, Ning Haoren said indifferently, "What else do you have to say?" "Submit to me," Xianhua said indifferently. Ning Haoren staggered and then looked at Xianhua as if he was looking an idiot. His face was full of disbelief. "You want me to submit to you? Did I hear wrongly?" "That's right." Xianhua nodded fiercely. "Because I've already merged with the Devil's Heart. In time, my strength will definitely surpass yours and even anyone in the Fiend clan. It's inevitable that I'll unify the Fiend clan and become the Lord of all Fiends." "Ha ha!" Ning Haoren suddenly laughed. After a long time, he looked at Xianhua with a cold expression. "Even if I have to unify the Fiend clan, it'll be me. I'm the Lord of all Fiends." As he spoke, Ning Haoren reached out his hand again and grabbed at Xianhua. Xianhua nodded. His figure flashed, and he had already retreated. At the same time, Ning Haoren saw endless white fog suddenly appear around him. It was as if he had suddenly entered a strange time and space. In fact, Ning Haoren was still in the hall far away. The reason for this situation was that he had been enveloped by the projection of the 10-directional extinction formation. Murong Yu was confident that he could kill Ning Haoren. However, Murong Yu wasn't confident that he could kill or suppress him in one blow. If this guy had a supreme weapon, then it would be a great battle. At that time, the aftermath of their battle would definitely flatten the entire hall and implicate countless innocent people. These people were Xianhua's future subordinates. Murong Yu didn't want to kill so many people. Moreover, the aftermath of their battle would definitely attract the attention of the powerhouses of the other Fiend clan. Once they were discovered, it would be impossible for Murong Yu to defeat them one by one. If that was the case, the time for Xianhua to unify the Fiend clan would be extended indefinitely. Boom! When the projection of the formation enveloped Ning Haoren, Murong Yu made his move. At the same time, the powerhouse on the Saint leaderboard who was controlling the formation, Meng Man, Xianhua, and the rest also made their move. Murong Yu's strength was terrifying enough. His speed was so fast that Ning Haoren couldn't react at all. He was sent flying by Murong Yu's punch. At the same time, the formation's attack also came down fiercely. With the amplification of the formation, these attacks were not inferior to Murong Yu's current strength without any suspense. Ning Haoren was quickly suppressed. This made Ning Haoren extremely angry and regretful. He kept cursing Xing Yuan. If it weren't for his friendship with Ning Yuan, he would have brought out the supreme weapon. Even if he couldn't fully erupt the power of the supreme weapon with his strength, he could definitely break this formation and escape. How could he be suppressed by Murong Yu and others? However, no matter how Ning Haoran cursed and regretted, it was useless. Murong Yu directly controlled his soul and made him Murong Yu's slave. At the same time, Murong Yu also gave Ning Haoran's soul bead to Xianhua. Looking at Ning Haoran's soul bead, Xianhua breathed a sigh of relief. At least now, he had the strength to unify the Fiend clan. As long as the two old ancestors of the Qi clan and Meng clan were suppressed or controlled, no force in the Fiend clan would stop Xianhua from unifying the Fiend clan. After all, Ning Haoran was already the third strongest powerhouse in the Fiend clan. Master, I believe you're already very clear about the situation of the Meng clan. They have a terrifying existence, ranked 70th on the saint list. The strength of the Qi clan's old ancestor is even more terrifying, reaching 30th on the saint list. With my strength, dealing with the Meng clan's old ancestor is not a problem, but I am not his opponent at all. Moreover, those two old foxes are very cunning and vigilant. They won't be fooled at all. Although Ning Haoran was unwilling in his heart, he quickly adjusted his mentality and changed his role. Now that he was a fish on the chopping block, his life and death were controlled by others. He had no choice but to be loyal. Hearing this, Xianhua's face suddenly became dignified. The strength of the two old ancestors of the Meng clan and Qi clan was too strong. At this moment, Murong Yu suddenly frowned slightly, and his face became gloomy. Murong Yu, what's wrong? Xianhua immediately asked. Someone broke into the Mountain Sea secret realm. Don't touch the Meng clan and Qi clan for the time being. Subdue the other 6 clans first. Remember, you must make it airtight. As for the Meng clan and Qi clan, wait until I come back. Before he could finish his words, Murong Yu's figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood. The Mountain Sea secret realm is under attack. Xianhua's face darkened. One was because he was worried about Shangzhen, and the other was his side. Without Murong Yu, they were no match for the Meng clan and Qi clan at all. At this time, in the Mountain Sea secret realm, Shangzhen? Haha, is that bastard Murong Yu here? Above Shangzhen's head, a young man floated in the void, looking down at Shangzhen with a ferocious expression. His hands were constantly blasting out terrifying forces as he roared. Asterisk rumble. Asterisk, a series of terrifying forces blasted down, shaking the sky and splitting the earth. However, they were blocked by Zhang Ao and the other experts on the saint list. However, this person's strength was too terrifying. Zhang Ao and the others found it very difficult to resist. Although they all blocked the attacks, they were shaken to the point that their blood and qi were churning like rivers and seas. Who is this bastard? His strength is so terrifying. Even the origin energy of the Mountain Sea secret realm can't suppress him. If it weren't for the suppression of the Mountain Sea secret realm, I'm afraid that our entire Shenzhen would have been slaughtered by him. Zhang Ao was furious as he thought in horror. The suppression of the Mountain Sea secret realm was still there. Although this person's strength was suppressed, he was still stronger than Zhang Ao and the others. Even the dozen or so experts on the Saint list could only temporarily block the opponent's attack. It could be imagined that it wouldn't be long before Zhang Ao and the others were defeated. And as long as they couldn't block the opponent's attack, Shenzhen would be slaughtered. Chapter 1690. Asterisk Rumble. Asterisk This expert was extremely strong. Even though he was suppressed by the Mountain Sea secret realm, he was still able to kill Zhang Ao and the others. As time passed, this person's attacks became stronger and stronger, while Zhang Ao and the others were injured one after another. Bastard! Who the hell is this bastard? Zhang Ao couldn't help but roar in anger. We can't go on like this. We can't resist his attacks at all. We can't hold on for much longer. Let the other disciples withdraw to the divine world first. Duan Muqing came to the side of Zhao Jiqing and the others and said in a deep voice. Zhao Jiqing looked at the expert in the sky with an incomparably cold expression. Feng Sangxiong, you actually did this. A dignified existence ranked 11th on the saint ranking actually attacked Shenzhen. These weak saints. This person was actually Feng Sangxiong, the strongest ancestor of the Phoenix clan. One of the strongest experts in the holy world whose strength was closest to the supreme. However, this guy actually shamelessly attacked the Mountain Sea secret realm. Was he trying to kill Shenzhen? Haha! Feng Sangxiong laughed out loud. Anyone who goes against me is my enemy. As long as it's my enemy, no matter what realm or identity they have, they must die. If you want to blame someone, blame Murongyu. If you didn't provoke me, I wouldn't even bother to pay attention to you. Shameless person, if you have the ability, go find the Holy Lord directly. You're not the Holy Lord's opponent, but you came to attack us. The Phoenix clan's old face has been completely lost by you. Young man said angrily. Feng Sangxiong's face turned cold, and his killing intent suddenly soared. You and Murongyu must die. I'll kill you now, and then go kill Murongyu. Feng Sangxiong grinned hideously and burst out with an even stronger attack towards Young Man and the others. Puff, puff, puff. Under Feng Sangxiong's incomparably violent attack, Zhang Ao and the others finally couldn't hold on. Each and every one of them was bombarded until they vomited blood. And if they couldn't resist, the aftermath of Feng Sangxiong's power would scatter and kill in all directions. As a result, some of Shenzhen's disciples were unlucky. Those who were swept up by these forces were all twisted into pieces. In an instant, Shenzhen lost several thousand disciples. All of you, return to the deity realm. Zhao Jiqing coldly shouted. Then, she looked at Feng Sangxiong, who was in the sky with indifference, and launched her strongest attack. Trying to escape? Feng Sangxiong sneered and attacked even more violently, causing Zhao Jiqing and others to vomit blood. However, Zhao Jiqing and the others didn't even take a step back. They resisted with all their might. Only by resisting Feng Sangxiong's attack could they reduce Shenzhen's losses to the minimum. Otherwise, once they retreated, they would also be killed by Feng Sangxiong. Everyone, hold on. The Holy Master will be back soon, Kurlan said in a deep voice. However, as she spoke, a helpless expression appeared on her face. Murongyu had originally left a doppelganger of his here. It was just that Feng Sangxiong's strength was too strong. Murongyu's doppelganger was suppressed by the berserk attack from the very beginning. And without a power clone, how would Murongyu know everything that happened here? He didn't even know that the Mountain Sea secret realm was under attack. Of course, this was impossible. Although the Mountain Sea secret realm was here, the Mountain Sea scripture was with Murongyu. As long as the Mountain Sea secret realm was under attack, the Mountain Sea scripture would sense it, and Murongyu would naturally know. Feng Sangxiong, you're courting death. Kurlan's voice had just fallen when a voice filled with strong, ice-cold, killing intent resounded in the entire Mountain Sea secret realm. At the same time, a figure appeared out of thin air not far in front of Feng Sangxiong. The person who stood opposite Feng Sangxiong in the sky and looked at Feng Sangxiong with killing intent was Murongyu. At this moment, seeing that the entire Mountain Sea secret realm was almost destroyed, looking at those Shenzhen disciples who were killed, looking at Zhao Jiqing and others who were vomiting blood, the anger in Murongyu's heart was ignited. Killing intent. He had never had such a strong killing intent. He had never had such a strong desire to kill Feng Sangxiong. At this moment, Murongyu wished he could slap Feng Sangxiong to death. However, he knew that Feng Sangxiong dared to rush in the Mountain Sea secret realm alone without being afraid of being suppressed. He must have something to rely on and have a backup plan. Murongyu's strength originally had a big gap with Feng Sangxiong. It was extremely difficult to kill him. However, this bastard actually dared to enter the Mountain Sea secret realm. This was another opportunity. Murongyu could use this opportunity to kill him in one fell swoop. Thousands of thoughts flashed through his mind. Then, Murong Yu looked at Feng Sangxiong with an indifferent expression. His killing intent skyrocketed. Feng Sangxiong also stopped his attack. His eyes were full of resentment as he looked at Murong Yu. Murong Yu, you finally came out? Very good. Today, let me kill you and your Shenzhen. From today onwards, there will be no more Murong Yu and Shenzhen in the holy world. Feng Sangxiong stared at Murong Yu with resentment. After a long time, he said word by word. Murong Yu suddenly laughed. Feng Sangxiong, you wanted to kill me time and time again, but what was the result? The first time, you were suppressed by my senior brother in the Feng clan. The second time, although I don't know how you escaped, but it must be uncomfortable, right? Let me think, have you died once? Or have you died twice? Hearing this, Feng Sangxiong's face darkened. Although he wasn't killed by Yangzhia the first time, it was really too shameful. After this matter spread out, it made Feng Sangxiong lose face. And the second time, although it didn't spread out, not many people knew what happened. But after that matter, Feng Sangxiong's hatred for Murong Yu was even more monstrous. Because Murong Yu caused him to die once. One must know that although the Phoenix Nirvana was heaven-defying, even if it was cultivated to perfection, there were only 3 chances to resurrect. Murong Yu had wasted one of his chances, so how could he not hate him? Less nonsense, die for me. Feng Sangxiong shouted angrily and attacked aggressively. He stretched out his big hand and attacked Murong Yu. Murong Yu didn't move. He just smiled slightly. Feng Sangxiong, aren't you afraid that I will banish you to the immemorial battlefield again? Feng Sangxiong's body trembled fiercely. The existence in the immemorial battlefield was really too terrifying. He was unwilling to enter it again, even if he was beaten to death. Once he appeared, he would die without a doubt. However, Murong Yu must also be killed. Last time, he just didn't pay attention. Now that he was prepared, it would be difficult for Murong Yu to banish him. Therefore, Feng Sangxiong only hesitated for a moment and continued to attack Murong Yu. A cold, murderous intent flashed across Murong Yu's eyes. Swish! At the same time, Feng Sangxiong felt that he had entered a white, misty space. It was the all-directional extermination array again. Feng Sangxiong snorted coldly. He took a step out and was about to leave this great array projection. But the great array's attack had already been activated. A terrifying power blasted down, locked onto Feng Sangxiong and strangled him. Feng Sangxiong's face showed disdain. He knew this all-directional extermination array better than Murong Yu. Murong Yu was dreaming if he wanted to use this great array to kill him. However, what shocked Feng Sangxiong was that just as he was about to rush out of the array, he felt a very powerful and terrifying power crazily suppressing him from all directions and directly acting on his body. At this moment, Feng Sangxiong felt as if his entire body was being suppressed by an immemorial sacred mountain. It was incomparably heavy, and his speed was incomparably slow, and it was difficult for him to move. Moreover, Feng Sangxiong even felt that a part of his strength that had been suppressed was suppressed again. His strength was getting weaker and weaker. Feng Sangxiong understood that this was Murong Yu controlling the origin power of the Mountain Sea secret realm to suppress him. In fact, this was the case. Originally, the Mountain Sea secret realm suppressed him, but Murong Yu wasn't here, and the Mountain Sea scripture wasn't here either. It couldn't completely suppress Feng Sangxiong's power. And at this time, Murong Yu could continue to suppress Feng Sangxiong. It was just that Feng Sangxiong's strength was too powerful. Even if Murong Yu personally took action, he couldn't completely suppress his power. This was also the reason why Murong Yu couldn't fully exert the power of the Mountain Sea scripture. Otherwise, as long as he willed it, Feng Sangxiong would be suppressed to the same level as a mortal. It could even directly suppress him to death. Boom, boom, boom. A series of terrifying attacks swiftly and violently bombarded Feng Sangxiong. Puff! Feng Sangxiong, who was unprepared, was directly bombarded until he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he only spat out a mouthful of blood. Apart from some cracks appearing on his body, Feng Sangxiong didn't suffer any serious injuries. One could imagine how terrifying his strength was. However, this was just the beginning. Waves of power continuously bombarded down, bombarding Feng Sangxiong until he spat out blood. He was furious in his heart. "Ah, more on you, I must kill you. You must die, all of you must die." Feng Sangxiong roared, and a dazzling holy light suddenly burst out from his body. At the same time, a vast, powerful, and terrifying aura erupted from his body. A five-colored holy light burst out from Feng Sangxiong's body, tearing the void apart and finally suspended in front of Feng Sangxiong. This was a long spear that emitted five-colored holy light. At this time, the long spear trembled slightly in the void. Waves of terrifying aura constantly emitted from the spear, shaking the surrounding void and annihilating it. Five-colored holy light. This was the unique light of a supreme weapon. In other words, this long spear was a supreme weapon. Phoenix Plume Nether Spear. At this time, Zhao Jiqing exclaimed. This long spear was one of the two supreme weapons of the Phoenix clan, and was also the most powerful supreme weapon. It was much more powerful than the Mirage Spirit Phoenix Pagoda in Zhao Jiqing's hand. Legend had it that this supreme weapon was refined from the flesh and bones of the Phoenix clan's ancestor. As long as one was from the Phoenix clan, one could exert most of its power. Even if one hadn't reached the supreme realm, one could also exert the full power of the supreme weapon. Chapter 1691. While Zhao Jiqing exclaimed, Feng Sangxiong had already reached out his big hand and grabbed the Phoenix Plume Netherworld spear floating in front of him. Boom! Just as Feng Sangxiong grabbed the Phoenix Plume Netherworld spear, his aura instantly soared. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. In just an instant, Feng Sangxiong's aura had already surpassed Yu Yangjia, who was ranked 10th on the saint list, and his aura was still rising rapidly. In the next moment, Feng Sangxiong's aura had risen to the point where it made Murongyu tremble with fear. Murongyu felt that he was no longer Feng Sangxiong's opponent at this time. Moreover, Feng Sangxiong's ascension didn't stop. At the same time, the aura of the Phoenix Plume Netherworld spear in Feng Sangxiong's hand was also rising rapidly. How could this be? Murongyu immediately reacted. He immediately controlled the mountain and sea scripture to exert the greatest suppression on Feng Sangxiong. At the same time, Murongyu controlled the origin power of the mountain and sea scripture to expel Feng Sangxiong. During this process, Murongyu executed infinite banishment on Feng Sangxiong, while the Yin-Yang Cauldron and the others ruthlessly smashed towards him. At the same time, Zhao Jiqing also summoned Phantom Light Spirit Phoenix Pagoda and attacked Feng Sangxiong fiercely. The other disciples of Shenzhen also unleashed their strongest attacks. However, what made Murongyu extremely shocked was that the origin power of the mountain and sea scripture couldn't expel Feng Sangxiong, and the power of infinite banishment was also helpless against Feng Sangxiong. As for the array and the attacks of the other Saint List experts, they only bombarded Feng Sangxiong's energy shield and made it flicker violently. But looking at Feng Sangxiong's appearance, he wasn't injured at all. At this time, Feng Sangxiong's aura had risen to an extremely terrifying level. Murongyu die. Feng Sangxiong suddenly grinned. Then his big hand shook and the Phoenix Plume Netherworld spear in his hand blasted out. Rumble wherever it passed. The void was rapidly annihilated. Under Murongyu's horrified gaze, the omnidirectional annihilation array's projection was smashed to smithereens as easily as crushing dry weeds. Puff! In Hichu Luoshu, the 20 experts on the Saint ranking from the Phoenix clan and the Fiend clan almost spat out a mouthful of blood and were sent flying. What's more, Murongyu discovered that even the array had been destroyed. All 20 experts on the Saint rankings were severely injured. This was only the beginning. After the spear shattered the projection of the great array, the long spear in Feng Sangxiong's hand went straight in. A terrifying aura burst out and enveloped Murong Yu and the others before ruthlessly bombarding them. "All of you back off." Upon seeing this, Murong Yu's heart sank. He roared and took a step forward. Wearing the battle armor, transformed from Hichu Luoshu, he held the phoenix spear of 100 birds in his hand and stabbed out with angry, questioning the heavens. During this process, Murong Yu's soul was also mobilized by him. The endless soul sea suddenly boiled. Streaks of soul power rushed into the soul space like stormy waves and rushed out of Murong Yu's body. They condensed into a shapeless and formless saber and fiercely slammed down on Feng Sanqiong's soul. Saint Soul Slash. A huge golden armored war god also appeared above the two people out of thin air. It erupted with a terrifying pressure and punched at Feng Sanqiong. Heavenly King Grand Sage Art. Feng Sanqiong's eyes flashed with cold, killing intent, and his face showed disdain. The supreme weapon in his hand streaked across the void and directly bombarded the phoenix spear of 100 birds. Bang! Murong Yu felt a violent shock in his hand. A powerful and terrifying force quickly drilled into the phoenix spear of 100 birds from the contact and then quickly spread. Before Murong Yu could react, it had already rushed into Murong Yu's arm. With a bang, Murong Yu's entire arm was directly shattered into nothingness. After that force shattered Murong Yu's arm, it quickly rushed into Murong Yu's body. Under the horrified eyes of Zhao Jiqing and others, Murong Yu was directly shattered into a bloody mist. Feng Sanqiong grinned even more when he saw this. He took a step forward and put away his supreme weapon, wanting to blast Murong Yu's soul. But at this time, Murong Yu's soul attack and mind attack had already bombarded. Feng Sanqiong frowned slightly, but in the end he still glanced at Murong Yu's soul unwillingly and stopped. The long spear in his hand paused and then hit Murong Yu's soul. The Saint's soul slash condensed by Murong Yu's soul power was shattered with a bang. However, there was still some soul power that rushed into Feng Sanqiong's soul space. Although Feng Sanqiong's soul space was protected by a powerful force, Murong Yu's soul power still ruthlessly slashed at his soul. Although it couldn't seriously injure Feng Sanqiong's soul, it also made Feng Sanqiong's face reveal a painful expression. After shattering the soul attack, the phoenix plume nether spear once again flicked up and hit the golden armored war god. Suddenly, the golden armored war god was blasted by Feng Sanqiong's spear. It actually couldn't affect his mind. Boom! After smashing the golden armored war god, Feng Sanqiong took a step forward. With a flash of holy light, he appeared on the spot. When he appeared again, he had already rushed to the front of Murong Yu, and the long spear in his hand pierced over again. However, at this time, Murong Yu had already recovered his physical body and was ready to no longer confront Feng Sanqiong head-on. With a sway of his body, he retreated violently. Feng Sanqiong's spear suddenly missed. It blew up the space where Murong Yu was originally in. The terrifying aftermath of the power swept out like a torrent, rolling in all directions. Bang! 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 Zhao Jiqing, Zhang Ao, and the other Saint List experts who were waiting to rush over were directly sent flying, each and every one of them spurting out blood. There were a few unlucky souls whose physical bodies were even shattered. Even the Saint List experts were like this, let alone the other saints. The terrifying aftermath of the power swept out, and suddenly, tens of thousands of Shenzhen's disciples who didn't have time to retreat were caught in the crossfire. They didn't even have time to react before their physical bodies and souls were shattered and they died directly. Seeing this, Murong Yu's eyes turned red. Taking a step forward, two big hands stretched out in the air and quickly grabbed in front of him, controlling the power that swept out. At this time, there was still a small number of Shenzhen's disciples who didn't have time to retreat to the divine world. And they couldn't return to the divine world because the teleportation array connecting Shenzhen and the divine world had been shattered by the aftermath of the power just now. With a thought, these disciples of Shenzhen and even Zhao Jiqing and the others were expelled from the Mountain Sea secret realm. These people not only couldn't help Murong by staying here, they would even cause more casualties. Therefore, it was better to expel them from the Mountain Sea secret realm. In fact, Murong wanted to take all of them into the Hichu Luoshu, but there was no chance. Feng Sangxiong also wouldn't give Murong this chance. As long as they are in the holy world, no matter where they go, they will die. Moreover, Feng Qianquan is already waiting outside. Yu Shengzhen and the others will die, without a doubt. Seeing Murong expel Zhao Jiqing and the others, Feng Sangxiong didn't stop him. He just looked at Murong and sneered. As for you, you'll also die. I have to say, Murong, your growth is beyond my expectations. It is because of this that you will die today. Don't think about escaping. I have completely integrated with the Phoenix Plume Nether Spear. Do you think you can block my attack? Alright, I forgot to tell you, I only used 50% of my strength just now. Looking at Murong, Feng Sangxiong said indifferently, but the disdain on his face seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. He looked at Murong as if he was looking at a dead man. Murong's heart sank. He didn't believe that Feng Sangxiong only used 50% of his strength. But even if Feng Sangxiong used 100% of his strength, without stronger strength, Murong was far from being his opponent. Besides running for his life, Murong couldn't do anything else? Fight with Feng Sangxiong? If Murong had that ability, he would definitely kill Feng Sangxiong, but he didn't have that strength now, did he? However, thinking of Feng Sangxiong's words, Murong didn't continue to escape. He might be able to escape, but what about Zhao Jiqing and the others? They definitely couldn't escape. Once Murong escaped, Feng Sangxiong would definitely capture Zhao Jiqing and the others to threaten Murong. Moreover, was there really Feng Qianquan and the other Feng clan's saint-ranking experts outside the classic of Mountain and Sea? Boom! This thought just flashed in Murong's mind, and a terrible loud noise broke out outside the classic of Mountain and Sea. Along with the loud noise was a terrifying energy fluctuation. There were people fighting outside. With a thought, Murong was about to leave the classic of Mountain and Sea. But Feng Sangxiong had been locking onto him. Just as Murong moved, he also moved. Rumble. Phoenix Plume Nether Spear burst out a terrifying aura, piercing through hundreds of millions of space and time, locking onto Murong and fiercely stabbing over. Murong was shocked. He felt that if he ignored Feng Sangxiong's attack and continued to leave the Mountain and Sea secret realm, he would definitely be bombarded by Feng Sangxiong's attack. With the strength of his body and his current strength, he couldn't resist at all and would be blown up by Feng Sangxiong. Therefore, Murong decisively chose to resist. Boom! Murong's various treasures appeared behind him in an instant, blocking the attack of Phoenix Plume Nether Spear. However, these treasures only blocked Phoenix Plume Nether Spear for a little bit. Phoenix Plume Nether Spear paused for a moment, then continued to lock onto Murong and stabbed over. As for Murong's treasures, they were all sent flying. The damage caused by the collision caused Murong's mind to shudder. Although Murong had the armor transformed from Hichu Luoshu, if he was pierced by Phoenix Plume Nether Spear, just the overflowing damage would shatter Murong's body. At this time, Murong no longer had any treasures that could resist. Could it be that his body would be blown up by Feng Sangxiong just like that? If only I still had a supreme weapon at this time. At least I could make the supreme weapon explode. This thought suddenly flashed in Murong's mind. At the same time, something appeared in Murong's right hand out of thin air. Chapter 1692. What appeared in Murong's hand was a sword. When this sword appeared in Murong's hand, a strange feeling appeared in his heart. At the same time, a wave of information flooded into Murong's mind like a vast ocean. At the same time, the aura on Murong's body began to surge. At this moment, Murong finally reacted. Originally, he was quite curious and shocked about the sudden appearance of the sword. because this sword appeared in Murong Yu's hand by itself. Murong Yu didn't even know where this sword came from. However, at this moment, Murong Yu discovered that his aura had surged. Waves of terrifying power constantly vibrated out from the long sword in his hand and poured into Murong Yu's body. Suddenly, Murong Yu's strength skyrocketed. In just a moment, his cultivation had already surpassed the soul cultivation, surpassed the original Feng Sanxiong, and approached the current Feng Sanxiong. At this time, Feng Sanxiong's phoenix plume nether spear had also pierced down. Murong Yu couldn't avoid it all. Kill! At this moment, Murong Yu suddenly had confidence in the long sword that inexplicably appeared in his hand. He roared and slashed out with his sword. Boom! At the moment of the collision, time seemed to have stopped and stood still. But very quickly, a terrifying shock wave spread out in all directions with the point of impact as the center. Wherever the shock wave passed, the void was annihilated, and the long sword and long spear were both bounced out. Then, their masters Murong Yu and Feng Sanxiong were also sent flying. Swish! Swish! The two stood in the void, and then both of them had a horrified expression. Feng Sanxiong was surprised that Murong Yu was still being tortured by him before and didn't even have the strength to fight back. How could he be on par with him after suddenly having an additional sword? This time, both of them were sent flying by the shockwave. Although Murong Yu retreated a bit further than him, it didn't mean anything. If Feng Sanxiong wanted to kill Murong Yu in this state, it would be extremely difficult. Murong Yu was also shocked. He was shocked that his strength had suddenly become so powerful. What exactly was this sword? It could actually increase his strength so terrifyingly. Almost at the same time, Murong Yu and Feng Sanxiong both looked at the sword in Murong Yu's hand. There was only shock in Murong Yu's eyes, but there was also intense greed in Feng Sanxiong's eyes. If he could get this sword, wouldn't he be even more powerful? At this moment, Murong Yu finally recalled that when the sword appeared in his hand, a large amount of information had also surged into his mind. There should be information about this sword's information. Chi! Murong Yu just wanted to check the information in his mind, but at this time, Feng Sanxiong made his move. Murong Yu's face turned cold. Then he sneered and no longer retreated. Instead, he took a step forward and fought with Feng Sanxiong with the sword in his hand. At the same time, he also controlled the origin power of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm to constantly suppress Feng Sanxiong. Their strength was about the same, and they both had an incomparably powerful supreme tool. Moreover, the sacred tool in Murong Yu's hand had 2 more colors under the 5-colored holy light. 7 colors? Wasn't 7 colors a ruler's weapon? The sword in Murong Yu's hand was actually a ruler's weapon. Their strength was about the same. After the two fought for a while in the Mountain Sea Secret Realm, Murong Yu's heart moved, and a bad feeling surged in his heart, because he found that the soul power in his incomparably huge soul sea was rapidly being consumed. The soul power in the huge mountain sea that had a radius of 1 billion miles was surging like a vast ocean. At this time, 1% of it had already been consumed. This sword is actually burning soul power? Murong Yu was incomparably shocked. After a while, he finally knew why his soul power was burning so violently. He thought that the sacred tool in his hand didn't need any power to maintain. It turned out that it needed soul power. Only the soul power in Murong Yu's soul sea that had a radius of 1 billion miles could withstand such consumption. Otherwise, if it was someone else, even if they couldn't even make a move, their soul power would be completely consumed. Now, I'm about the same as Feng Sanxiong. Even if I consume all my soul power, I'm afraid I can't kill Feng Sanxiong. Once my soul power is exhausted, I won't be able to continue using this sacred sword. Murong Yu thought in his heart and began to launch various killing moves. Soul attack, mind attack. After Murong Yu's strength increased, the power of these attacks had also increased a lot. Although it wasn't enough to kill Feng Sanxiong, at least it was a threat to him. Infinite exile. Murong Yu suddenly used infinite exile with all his strength. Swoosh! Feng Sangxiong, who was originally rushing towards Murong-yu, suddenly disappeared without a trace. He's been exiled? Murong-yu was stunned. Then his face revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Originally, he didn't think of using this move to exile Feng Sangxiong. After all, Feng Sangxiong's strength was about the same as his and could already resist the power of exile. It was just that he didn't expect it to succeed. Being exiled into the turbulent space, then my infinite exile has reached the entry level. Murong-yu was incomparably happy, because before this his infinite exile was only at the superficial level, not even the entry level. It's best to be lost in the turbulent space forever. Murong-yu thought evilly in his heart. At the same time, he took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. After Murong-yu disappeared, the Mountain Sea secret realm also disappeared. It had been kept into the Mountain Sea secret realm by Murong-yu. At this time, Murong-yu once again stepped into the holy world. But what made him angry was that Zhao, Jiqing, and the others, who left the Mountain Sea secret realm before him, had already disappeared. The aura in the void outside was chaotic, but Murong-yu still found the aura of Zhao, Jiqing, Kurlan, and the others. Their auras intertwined in the void, and in the end, they separated into two groups and left in different directions. And there were still traces of a great battle left everywhere outside. Murong-yu's face was gloomy. Zhao, Jiqing, and the others left in two directions. Were they caught by the people of the Phoenix clan, or did they escape? After a moment, Murong-yu took a step forward and was about to chase to one side. But at this moment, the void not far behind him was suddenly shattered by someone. Murong-yu, I can't live under the same sky as you. An angry and familiar roar came from behind Murong-yu. Murong-yu turned his head and saw that Feng Sangxiong had already shattered the void and rushed out. This guy actually didn't get lost in the turbulent space and rushed out so quickly. Murong-yu sneered and took a step forward, disappearing on the spot. He didn't have time to waste with Feng Sangxiong now. Feng Sangxiong shouted in anger and chased after him with his spear. Murong-yu's original speed was about the same as his. Now that his strength had skyrocketed, his speed had already left Feng Sangxiong behind by a few streets. In just a moment, Murong-yu had already disappeared from Feng Sangxiong's sight. At this time, Murong-yu was tracking Zhao Jiqing's aura while sorting out his memories. After sorting out his memories, Murong-yu finally knew what was going on with the long sword in his hand. This long sword was called Xian Yuan's sword. It was the ruler's weapon used by the previous ruler. However, when the high heavens ascended to the throne, the ruler was killed by the high heavens. Even the ruler's weapon was shattered by the high heavens. It was just that this ruler's weapon wasn't simple. Although it was shattered, it turned into 4 broken long swords. They were Kill Immortal Sword, Kill Immortal Sword, Trap Immortal Sword, and Extinguish Immortal Sword. These 4 immortal swords had long been obtained by Murong-yu, and they had already merged. It was just that they hadn't merged successfully in Hichu Luoshu. When the 4 immortal swords merged into Xian Yuan's sword, it was when Murong-yu was being chased by Feng Sangxiong and fell into a life and death situation. In fact, Xian Yuan's sword hadn't fully recovered yet. Now, it was only equivalent to an ordinary supreme weapon. It was far from reaching the level of a ruler's weapon. However, because of the particularity of Xian Yuan's sword, as long as Murong-yu had enough soul power, he could exert half of Xian Yuan's sword's power. The power that just erupted was actually equivalent to the power of the worst supreme weapon. It was because of this that Murong-yu had the strength to fight with Feng Sangxiong. Otherwise, he would have been killed long ago. At this moment, when Murong-yu was chasing, his soul power was still burning. As long as he used Xian Yuan's sword, his soul power would burn. Unless he didn't use Xian Yuan's sword. This was also helpless. Murong-yu didn't want anything to happen to Zhao Jiqing and the others. Not to mention burning soul power. Even if it was burning soul power, Murong-yu would do it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. While Murong-yu was flying quickly, he suddenly found that the aura left in the void had disappeared. In the end, only the aura of one person was left. Feng Qinquan's aura. It's really the Feng clan. Murongyu's face was extremely gloomy and murderous. At the same time, his speed also skyrocketed. Feng Qinquan was flying rapidly in the direction of the Feng clan. However, all of a sudden, an aura that made his soul tremble violently appeared behind him. That terrifying aura was closing in on him at a terrifying speed. Whose aura is this? It's so terrifying. Feng Qinquan was extremely shocked. Unknowingly, his speed was getting faster and faster. But even so, the distance between him and the person behind him was getting closer and closer. Feng Qinquan, you're courting death. At this moment, a thunderous voice shattered hundreds of millions of space-time and directly transmitted over. It shook Feng Qinquan so much that he was dizzy and almost fell from the sky. It's Morongyu? Senior brother Sangxiong didn't kill him? Could it be that he broke through to the Supreme Realm? Feng Qinquan was about to be scared to death by the powerful Morongyu. In the midst of his shock, Feng Qinquan's speed skyrocketed again. But it was still useless. Whoosh! Morongyu abruptly extended his large hand. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Feng Qinquan. Then, he reached out and grabbed him. Chapter 1693. Seeing this, Feng Qinquan was instantly horrified. With a thought, his speed skyrocketed again, and he charged straight ahead. At the same time, he took out all of his treasures and attacked Morongyu with incomparable speed. Bang! After an explosion, all of Feng Qinquan's attacks were sent flying by Morongyu's slap. Feng Qinquan's strength was not weak. During this period of time, he had improved and rushed into the 80,000th place on the Saint leaderboard. However, Morongyu's strength had already surpassed Yu Yangjia's. With Yu Yangjia's strength, it was easy for him to kill Feng Qinquan. Moreover, Morongyu was now even stronger than Yu Yangjia. Therefore, after Morongyu's big slap sent Feng Qinquan's various treasures flying, his big hand grabbed Feng Qinquan's body in a flash. At the same time, an incomparably violent power blasted out and directly sealed Feng Qinquan. Feng Qinquan was instantly depressed. Although Morongyu's strength was strong before, it was not to this extent. Right now, he was like an ant against a giant. He was an ant, and Morongyu was the indomitable giant. What did you do to Jiqing and the others? After sealing Feng Qinquan's power, Morongyu's extremely cold voice rushed into Feng Qinquan's ears. The cold, killing intent contained in it made Feng Qinquan tremble involuntarily. They're all in my spatial treasure. I didn't hurt them. Feng Qinquan originally wanted to die rather than submit and ignore Morongyu. However, after he said it out loud, it was completely different. This made Feng Qinquan want to slap himself. However, he also knew that even if he did not say it, Morongyu could directly read his memories. With Morongyu's current strength, there was no way he could stop him from reading his first memory. Since he would find out in the end, he might as well tell Morongyu directly so that he would not have to suffer. Take out. With a thought, Morongyu took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he had already entered Hichu Luoshu. Just as Morongyu entered Hichu Luoshu, Feng Sangxiong had already chased after him with monstrous murderous intent. However, there was no trace of Morongyu. Bastard! Feng Sangxiong was furious in his heart. Then, he flew in the direction of the Feng clan. He had no way of knowing if Feng Qinquan had kidnapped Zhao, Jiqing, and the others. In fact, it was not because Feng Qinquan did not want to reply. Previously, when he was being chased by Morongyu, he simply didn't have the time. And now, he was sealed in Hichu Luoshu. Even if he received Feng Sangxiong's message, he had no chance to reply. After entering Hichu Luoshu, Morongyu snatched Feng Qinquan's space treasure and then directly erased the mind Feng Qinquan left in the treasure. This made Feng Qinquan gnash his teeth, but he only dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. Otherwise, once he angered Morongyu, he might be slapped to death by Morongyu. Even if he had a chance to be resurrected, he could only be resurrected in Hichu Luoshu. Once he was resurrected, he would still be killed. Murong, Ku-er, and the others have been taken away by some other people. After releasing Zhao Jiqing and the others, Zhao Jiqing immediately said with a worried face. Morongyu frowned slightly. He reached out his big hand and grabbed Feng Qinquan. What's going on? Are those other people from your Phoenix clan? Feng Qinquan quickly shook his head. In his heart, he despised Morongyu. If they were all from the Phoenix clan, why would they be separated? However, after feeling Morongyu's intense killing intent, he couldn't help but say, other than senior brother Tsangxiong, only I came from the Phoenix clan. Those people are not from our Phoenix clan. I don't know their identities either. Those people have been hiding outside the Mountain Sea secret realm. When I made my move, they also made their move. In fact, there are even a few of them who are stronger than me. Morongyu's face was gloomy. Who else could it be other than the people from the Phoenix clan? Only the people from the Phoenix clan knew about the Mountain Sea secret realm. The other forces didn't know about it at all in such a short time. Could it be that someone else knew about it? Although I don't know their identities, I'm sure that they are all from the human clan. They are all from the human clan. They should be from the other holy lands. Otherwise, none of them are stronger than me. Seeing Morongyu's gloomy face, Feng Qinquan knew that things were not good. So he continued, the human clan? The other holy lands? Morongyu frowned slightly, and a cold, killing intent flashed between his brows. At this time, if he chased after them, he wouldn't be able to catch up at all. Feng Qinquan knew that he had put Zhao Jiqing and the others into the spatial treasure, so those people must have done the same. Of course, if he followed those people's auras, Morongyu would eventually find out about their existence. Moreover, what made Morongyu slightly relieved was that Kurlan and the others' soul jade slips were not shattered. In other words, their lives were not in danger for the time being. Stay here obediently, or I'll kill you. After throwing Feng Qinquan to the side to suppress him, Morongyu looked at Zhao Jiqing and the others. Morong, go and save Ku-er and the others as soon as possible. I don't want anything to happen to them. Zhao Jiqing immediately persuaded Morongyu worriedly. Morongyu nodded slightly, and with a flash, he disappeared into Hichu Luoshu. Morongyu was even more worried than Zhao Jiqing. This was because he didn't know the identities of those people. If the other holy lands of the human clan made a move, it would be difficult to save those people. However, if they dared to make a move on his family, they would touch his reverse scale. Anyone who touched his reverse scale, no matter who it was, would die. However, Morongyu still had a worry in his heart. He didn't think that all of this was just a coincidence. Perhaps there was a big conspiracy against him, waiting for him to fall into it. However, even if it was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, Morongyu would still give it a try. Therefore, even though his soul power was still burning rapidly, Morongyu didn't stop it from continuing to burn. Therefore, he followed the auras of Kurlan and the others from the original place of the Mountain Sea secret realm and chased after them. Hichu Luoshu had already been teleported back here and returned to the starting point. He chased after them all the way. As expected, not long after, the auras of Kurlan and the others disappeared. Only 6 huge white auras were left on the spot. These 6 people were all experts on the saint ranking. Moreover, none of them were weak. Each of them was stronger than Feng Qinquan. Why were these experts on the saint ranking hiding here? Was there a conspiracy? Morongyu's expression became gloomier and gloomier as he continued to chase after them. However, these people were also quite cunning. At least they were smarter than Feng Qinquan. Feng Qinquan was just blindly flying, but these people actually began to use the teleportation formation. At this point, Morongyu was depressed. This was because there might be billions of teleportation formations on the other side of each teleportation formation. If you wanted to know where they were teleported to, you had to teleport them one by one to confirm. However, this would waste a lot of time. Other than that, there was another way to find out where those people were teleported to. Therefore, Morongyu directly captured the saints who were controlling the teleportation formation. What made Morongyu feel lucky was that those people did not pay the teleportation fee. Instead, they took the Overlord teleportation formation. These people who were controlling the teleportation formation were teleported there for free. This made things easier for Morongyu, so he quickly chased after her. Of course, he did not know how to Overlord teleportation. Before he left, he still threw the teleportation fee that should be paid to those who were controlling the teleportation formation. In the end, Morongyu chased after these experts on the Saint ranking who were still unaware and arrived at Stellar Sky City. Stellar Sky City was located at the center of the human territory in the Holy World. It was one of the largest human cities in the Holy World. Even the Holy Lands were not here. In fact, every Holy Land was extremely far away from here. Therefore, when he realized that the 6 experts on the Saint ranking did not continue to teleport, Morongyu felt a little strange. If those people had all returned to their respective forces, they should have gone back long ago. In fact, on the way, Morongyu also began to suspect which Holy Land of the human race had so many experts on the Saint ranking. Apart from the 9 great Holy Lands, there were perhaps 6 or 7 of them, or even more, who were ranked on the Saint rankings. However, Morongyu was certain that the strength of the experts on the Saint ranking in their forces was definitely uneven. It was impossible for all of them to be ranked in the top 80,000. Could it be? Morongyu suddenly thought of a possibility. Then his heart thumped. The Great Alliance of the Human Race. The Great Alliance of the Human Race was a great alliance formed by the Holy World. Originally, it was jointly controlled by the 10 Great Holy Lands. In the beginning, the Great Alliance of the Human Race existed to resist the Demon Race and the Holy Race. However, it slowly changed. It was no longer about resisting the Holy Race and the Demon Race. Instead, it became a place where various large forces and experts fought for power. As a result, the infernal affairs who had no interest in this area were directly pushed out. Thinking of the Great Alliance of the Human Race, Morongyu continued to try and revive Huang. At that time, they had almost destroyed the God Realm. If not for Morongyu turning the tide at the last moment, the God Realm would have been destroyed. However, it was precisely because of this that Morongyu had offended the Great Alliance of the human race before ascending to the Holy World. However, he had concealed his identity very well. The people of the Great Alliance of the human race had never discovered him. Had they finally discovered his identity? Those people were probably the experts on the Saint ranking of the human race, right? Were they going to make a move on Morongyu? Thinking of this, Morongyu's expression became even more gloomy. Why was Morongyu so sure that the Great Alliance of the human race had made a move on him? This was because the headquarters of the Great Alliance of the human race was in Stellar Sky City. The Great Alliance of the human race was not easy to deal with. They were extremely powerful. If Morongyu moved the Great Alliance of the human race, it would be equivalent to making an enemy of the entire human race. Not to mention the entire human race. Even if he made an enemy of all the saints in the Holy World, so what? Very soon, Morongyu's expression became resolute. Wasn't it just the Great Alliance of the human race? If they dare to touch me, I'll directly destroy them. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.